I was lying on a hospital bed, pretending to be asleep, when I heard two men talking. One was a doctor, the other was Commander Hu Qingshan, apparently my husband. The doctor said I was pregnant, malnourished, and very weak. Then Hu Qingshan asked if it was safe to abort the baby. The doctor warned him that if I lost this child, I might never get pregnant again. That's when everything hit me. I died from overwork in my real life. Heart stopped during a late-night shift. But instead of staying dead, I woke up here, in the body of a woman who shares my name, living in 1974 China. The original Su Suining was 20 years old, married to a military commander she never wanted. She hated this marriage so much that they slept in separate rooms. One night, an accident happened between them, and she got pregnant. That only made her more miserable. She had a man she actually loved. When he sent a letter saying he'd take her away, she packed up and left. Hu Qingshan came back from a mission, found her goodbye note, and chased after her. He found her 3 days later in some roadside motel, alone, clothes torn, unconscious on the floor with a nasty bump on the back of her head. Nobody knows what happened during those 3 days. The original Su Suining had no memory of it either. That's when I took over her body. While the doctors were working on me, I overheard nurses gossiping, saying it took 3 days to find me, and my clothes were ripped when Hu Qingshan carried me in. My stomach turned. This was 1974. The political chaos hadn't ended yet. A woman caught running off with another man could be publicly humiliated, head shaved, shoes hung around her neck, paraded through the streets. My grandmother told me stories about that. Hu Qingshan knew I was awake. After the doctor left, he looked at me with cold eyes and said if I really wanted out of this marriage, I should get healthy first, abort the baby, and he'd file for divorce. I couldn't pretend anymore. I opened my eyes and looked at him properly for the first time. He was tall, dark-skinned, sharp features, jaw like it was carved from stone. Standing there in his pressed military uniform, he looked exactly like a novel's male lead, because that's exactly what he was. I used every skill I'd learned from years of dealing with difficult clients. When things get tough, show weakness first. So I gave him a small, slightly pitiful smile and said, "I'm hungry." He paused, then asked what I wanted to eat. I didn't even know what was available in this era, so I just said dumplings or noodles would be fine. He told me to wait and left. I finally exhaled. No money, no ration tickets, no travel papers. I had nowhere to go. After dying once, I was desperate to survive. Not just survive, I wanted to live well. And that meant getting on Hu Qingshan's good side. I touched my belly. Maybe the baby could help soften him. He came back with an aluminum lunchbox full of leftover dumplings, skins broken, slightly clumped together. He assumed I'd be too picky to eat them, the way the original Su Suining would have been. But I grabbed that box and wolfed them down one after another without even tasting them. He watched me with a furrowed brow. She had never eaten like this before. When I finished, I finally felt alive again. I smiled at him and said thank you. He stared at me like he'd heard a foreign word. Then we both spoke at the same time. He said, "Once we abort the baby, we can." I said, "I lost my memory." I told him I couldn't remember anything, not how I ended up in the hospital, not what happened before. I begged him to keep the baby. The doctor said if I aborted, I could never have children again. I said if he really hated me that much, we could divorce after the baby was born. He didn't believe me at first. The original Su Suining had always wanted to get rid of the baby and leave. Why would she suddenly change her mind? But I kept insisting. I told him I wanted this child, that just thinking about the baby made me happy. After a long silence, he finally said, "I hope you won't regret this." I smiled, really smiled, for the first time since arriving in this world. He seemed caught off guard. In 6 months of marriage, the original Su Suining had never once smiled. Not like this. The doctor confirmed my amnesia was likely caused by the blood clot pressing on nerves from the head injury. It might go away on its own, or it might be permanent. Hu Qingshan decided he couldn't abandon me in this condition. He'd wait until my memory came back before discussing divorce. On the way home, a girl named Feng Shenhua showed up, the political commissar's sister-in-law, 18 years old, cheerful and pretty. The moment I saw her, a much bigger fear gripped me. I recognized this world. It was from a novel I'd read in college, a rebirth romance set in the 1970s. Hu Qingshan was the male lead. Feng Shenhua was the reborn female lead. And I was the first wife who dies in childbirth, clearing the way for the heroine's happy ending. In the original story, after I die giving birth, Feng Shenhua helps raise the baby, wins Hu Qingshan's heart, and marries him. She becomes the general's wife. And I'm just a footnote. The dead woman who made it all possible. I touched my belly. Was I really supposed to die after giving birth just to follow some plot? No way. I want to live. Feng Shenhua wasn't just some innocent girl either. She was reborn too, and she was already scheming. In the car, she, accidentally, mentioned that Hu Qingshan was injured on his mission, information that was classified. He shot her a cold look. She panicked. She'd slipped up, revealing knowledge she shouldn't have had yet. I noticed. I filed it away. Back at the military family compound, the wives gathered around, full of fake concern and real gossip. Feng Shenhua made her move. She tripped near me and yanked off the scarf I'd been using to cover my neck. Underneath were suspicious red marks, probably left by whoever the original Su Suaning had run off with. Feng Shenhua wanted everyone to see them and draw the worst conclusions. But I was ready. I touched my neck calmly and said, "Oh, these? Qingshan knows about them. I was trying to visit my parents when I got robbed at the motel. The attacker nearly strangled me. Qingshan rescued me just in time." I looked at Hu Qingshan. He didn't confirm it directly, but he told the commissar's wife that I was injured and needed rest. That was enough. No husband would publicly admit to being cheated on, and his words carried weight here. Feng Shenhua tried to push it further, hinting the marks looked like something else. I smiled sweetly and said, "You're only 18, Shenhua. You sure know a lot about these things." She went red and shut up. Inside our tiny two-room home, dirt floors, basic furniture, a cold stove, where Qingshan lit the fire, boiled water, and cleaned up. I watched him work, his sleeves rolled up, muscular forearms moving with practiced ease. Even doing chores, the man looked good. I tried again to convince him I'd changed, that I wanted the baby, that I'd be different. He wasn't buying it. Before he left for dinner at the commissar's house, he stopped at the door and said something that made my heart skip. "There's a diary and some letters in the desk drawer. Read them. Maybe they'll help you remember." While I was eating those dumplings, I quickly went through the original Su Suaning's memories one more time. Her family back home was a mess, fighting, problems everywhere. No help coming from that direction. So my only real option was to stay with Hu Qingshan and keep things stable for the next couple of years. He looked at me with pure distrust in his eyes. I raised my hand like I was swearing an oath. "I'm not lying to you. I tried to remember, but I have no idea how I ended up in this hospital." I told him I'd been awake during his talk with the doctor. I asked him, did he really not want this baby? Because I wanted it. The doctor said clearly that if I aborted now, I could never get pregnant again. Then I lowered my eyes, let my voice go soft and small, and said, "If you really hate me that much, we can divorce after the baby is born." He stared at me for a long time without speaking. I could feel my courage cracking under that gaze. Just when I was about to look away, he finally spoke. "This marriage was never what you wanted. The baby wasn't what you wanted either. Are you sure you won't regret this when your memory comes back?" I nodded fast. I won't. I want this baby. I like children." I was terrified he'd refuse. That he'd throw the affair in my face and kick me out. Another silence. Then he said quietly, "I hope you don't regret it." I couldn't believe he agreed. A real smile broke across my face, bright, relieved. Maybe the first genuine smile this body had ever worn.
He seemed startled by it.
Apparently, in 6 months of marriage, the original Su Suaning had never once smiled. She always looked miserable, mouth turned down, ignoring everyone around her like the whole world owed her something. The hospital made me nervous. Now that he'd agreed, I wanted out immediately. "I'm fine now. Can we go home?" I needed to get out there and figure out how this era actually worked, so I could survive in it. Qingshan didn't believe my amnesia story. I could tell. He probably thought I was just trying to escape punishment and protect the man I'd run off with. But he glanced at my belly, pushed down whatever he was feeling, and said, "I'll go ask the doctor." I jumped up. "I'll come with you." Walking beside him, I realized just how tall he was. This body was about 165 centimeters. I barely reached his shoulder. Dr. Chun was surprised to see me up and moving. I sat down, put on my best confused expression, and told him my head hurt and I couldn't remember anything. Every time I tried to think about the past, the pain got worse. He checked my pulse, looked at my eyes, and felt the big lump on the back of my skull. Then he turned to Qingshan. "Commander Hua, this swelling likely has blood clots pressing on her nerves. That's probably causing temporary memory loss." Qingshan's face gave nothing away. "Temporary? When will she recover, Dr. Chun wasn't sure. Once the blood clot absorbs naturally, her memory should come back. But there are exceptions. Nerve damage can be permanent, so there was a real chance I'd never recover my memories.
Perfect.
I kept my head down, shoulders drooped, looking sad. The truth was, I was hiding the satisfied grin trying to crawl across my face. With the doctor backing up my amnesia, I could keep up this act for a very long time. Dr. Chen reminded Qingshan to make sure I ate better. My body was in terrible shape. He seemed to think, baby on the way, couple should work things out.
Simple as that.
Walking out of the office, I was in a great mood, looking around at everything. Then I noticed a full-length mirror on the wall next to the office. Red painted words above it read, "Maintain military appearance and discipline." I stopped and studied myself. Thin as a willow branch, face pale but still pretty in a delicate, classical way. Not bad at all, just way too skinny. I leaned closer, pleased with what I saw, and then my blood went cold. On both sides of my pale neck were several suspicious red marks. Dark purplish spots, irregular shapes. They looked exactly like hickeys. Did the man she ran off with leave those? My heart started pounding. I'd been walking around right in front of Qingshan with these marks on full display this entire time. How had he held himself together? I touched my neck and turned around, and there he was, standing in the doorway of the hospital room, backlit, watching me with an unreadable expression. I panicked but forced a nervous laugh. What happened to my neck? Is it an allergic reaction? He just gave me one long, deep look, then turned and went inside to pack up the bedding. I followed him, offering to help. He ignored me and folded everything with sharp, precise military movements. The blankets turned into perfect square blocks in seconds. I stood there watching, my brain spinning nonstop, trying to figure out how to fix this awkward mess between us. The silence was suffocating. Then a girl burst through the door. "Brother Hua, is your wife okay?" She was tall, with two thick black braids hanging down her chest, wearing a white shirt and black pants. Simple clothes, but she looked healthy and pretty. I looked at her, and something far more terrifying than neck marks hit me. I recognized the girl who burst in. Well, the original Su Suaning recognized her, Feng Shenhua, the political commissar's sister-in-law. She'd come from the countryside about 2 months ago. Everyone in the family compound liked her because she was cheerful and hardworking. But the moment I saw her face, something far worse than neck marks hit me like a truck. I knew this world. It was from a novel I'd read back in college, reborn in the 70s, pampered by my second marriage military husband, Qingshan was the male lead. Feng Shenhua was the reborn female lead. And me? I was the first wife who dies. The book barely mentioned me. Just a few lines. The first wife was too weak, died during childbirth from complications, left behind a newborn baby. Qingshan was too busy with work to raise an infant alone, so Feng Shenhua stepped in, took care of the child, raised it healthy and chubby. He was grateful. The commissar and his wife played matchmaker. They got married. Happily ever after. I put my hand on my belly. So, according to the plot, I was supposed to give birth, die, and clear the way for the heroine?
No.
Absolutely not. I wanted to live. If it came down to it, I could just divorce Qingshan. There was no rule that said I had to die. While I was lost in thought, Feng Shenhua had already walked right up to me, all warm and friendly. Are you okay? After you left, everyone in the compound was so worried something bad might have happened to you. I snapped back to the present and smiled. What kind of bad thing would happen to me? That one sentence told me everything I needed to know about her. She put on an innocent face. Well, you just disappeared. People in the compound were saying you ran off with someone. But I believe you'd never do that. I looked up at her. She was a bit taller than me and caught the contempt she wasn't even trying to hide. I smiled wider. Who said that first?
Tell me.
I'll go confront them when we get back. I wasn't stupid enough to try proving my innocence. I had amnesia now, remember? I wouldn't admit to anything. Let them bring proof if they had any. She froze. The original Su Suaning she knew was a sickly, antisocial woman who ignored everyone. This version of me was apparently thinking too fast for her comfort. What Feng Shenhua didn't know was that I could see right through her. In her first life, her sister had offered to introduce her to Hu Qingshan after his wife died. But back then she was only 18, and Hu Qingshan was 28 with a newborn. The base was stuck in the middle of nowhere. She'd have to farm vegetables as a military wife. She turned it down. She wanted a city husband, a factory worker, proper grain rations. She got her wish, married a man at a meat processing plant. But her life turned out miserable. Her in-laws treated her like a servant. She had a daughter, which made them look down on her even more. Her husband barely came home. Years later, during the layoffs, he lost his job, started drinking, started hitting her. She got cancer in her 40s with no money for treatment and died alone at home. Meanwhile, at some family dinner years earlier, she'd heard that Hu Qingshan had become a high-ranking official, so important you could only see him on television. Her sister had sighed and said, if only Shenhua had married Qingshan back then. So when heaven gave Feng Shenhua a second chance, she came back with one goal: marry Hu Qingshan. The problem was she came back too early. He was already married. His wife was pregnant. And his wife hadn't died yet. She couldn't wait. She made excuses to come stay with her sister, just to be near Hu Qingshan, to build up goodwill. Once I died in childbirth, she'd swoop in, marry him, and become the general's wife. When she heard I'd run off while pregnant, she got excited. Maybe Hu Qingshan would throw me out even faster. Maybe they'd abort the baby and divorce immediately, and she wouldn't even have to raise someone else's child. She lied to her sister and took the earliest bus to the city hospital, hoping to watch Hu Qingshan deal with me. But when she walked in, she found us standing together, no fighting, no drama. That confused her. I watched her zone out and asked again. So, who exactly said I ran off? I want to know. She quickly shook her head. Never mind, there were too many people talking. I can't remember who said it. I let it go and turned to Hu Qingshan, who had finished packing. I called out in a bright, cheerful voice. Qingshan, Shenhua was so kind to come check on me. Let's give her a ride back. He looked surprised again. The original Su Suaning never spoke to him first. She'd barely grunt if she needed something. She certainly never called his name like that, casually, warmly, like a real wife. He nodded. Feng Shenhua tried to get his attention, offering to carry his bags. He stepped away from her hand. No need. Let's go. Her hand dropped to nothing. She was annoyed but told herself she was just being too eager. Then she looked up and saw me watching her with a knowing smile. The car was waiting at the hospital entrance. I climbed into the back seat, settled in, then smiled at Feng Shenhua. Get in. Something shifted in her expression. She could feel it. I was acting like the lady of the house, and she was just a guest along for the ride. She hated it. In her mind, she was supposed to be the one riding in cars with Hu Qingshan. She got in without a word. Hu Qingshan told the driver to stop at the supply store on the way. The town was small, lots of old buildings, political slogans painted on walls in black. When the car stopped, Hu Qingshan went inside alone. He came out carrying a mesh bag full of things that were hard to get in this era: malted milk powder, powdered milk, and several packs of egg cakes. Feng Shenhua's jealousy burned. Those were expensive, rare supplies. Nobody bought that much even when they were sick. And he was buying them for me. After he got back in the car, Feng Shenhua couldn't hold it in anymore. She said quietly, "Did you know, Hu Qingshan is still recovering from an injury?" Hu Qingshan turned and gave Feng Shenhua an ice-cold look. His injury from the mission was classified. How did she know about it? He was clearly thinking the commissar must be running his mouth at home. Feng Shenhua met his eyes and panicked. She'd forgotten. This information wasn't public yet. She only knew because in her previous life, after I died, her sister had mentioned it casually during a visit. Hu Qingshan's wife had run off while he was hurt on a mission, and he dragged himself out to find her despite his injuries. She'd been so annoyed about Hu Qingshan being too good to me that the words just slipped out. But the problem was this was still classified. Even her own sister didn't know yet. I caught that whole exchange in a flash. I remembered from the novel that Hu Qingshan's Special Operations Unit handled top-secret missions. Anything he personally led was extremely confidential. His injury right now was definitely still under wraps. This reborn Feng Shenhua really wasn't that smart. Wasn't she afraid of being investigated as a spy for knowing things she shouldn't? Nobody spoke for the rest of the drive. The road got more and more desolate, uncultivated land on both sides, wild spring grass everywhere, barely any houses. After we crossed a ridge, a few scattered homes appeared in the distance. The military base was at the foot of a mountain, a few miles from the nearest village. It was huge, a full division stationed there, which before the army reductions meant the size of 3 or 4 divisions. Hu Qingshan's Special Operations Regiment was separated off in the northwest corner, with its own area. The family compound sat just outside the base, a few rows of single-story houses, 2 rooms per family. Each home had a small yard fenced with wooden stakes and a simple outdoor kitchen. The moment we pulled up, several women were already waiting at the entrance. They swarmed Hu Qingshan immediately. "Commander Hu, did you find her? Don't be too angry. She probably just went out for some fresh air." Not one of them even glanced at the car. I stepped out. Their voices dropped right away. "Oh, you found her?
Good.
As long as she's safe." Flat, uninterested. But they were all warm and chatty with Feng Shenhua, asking her to bring them things from the city next time, complaining that the local shop didn't even have sugar. Feng Shenhua smiled and greeted every single one of them, patient and friendly. I stood off to the side, watching quietly. The original Su Suaning knew all these women by name. She just thought she was better than all of them, so she never bothered with any of them. Equal opportunity, contempt. The woman talking to Hu Qingshan was Feng Shenhua, Feng Shenhua's older sister, the commissar's wife. Mid-30s, short hair, capable-looking but plain. Funny how the novel's heroine magic worked. Feng Shenhua grew up doing farm work in the countryside, but somehow had glowing skin and pretty features, while her older sister looked ordinary and sun-darkened. Feng Shenhua finally seemed to notice me. She smiled, but her words had teeth. "Xiao Su, you're back? You really can't be this reckless. What if something happened? What about the baby?" I heard the contempt underneath the fake concern. I smiled politely. "Thank you for worrying. I'll be more careful." That actually surprised her. The old Su Suaning would never have given her a pleasant response. Feng Shenhua had tried being friendly once, brought me home-cooked noodles twice when I first arrived. The original Su Suaning thanked her with a cold face, then dumped the food straight into the trash. Feng Shenhua caught her doing it. In an era when food was precious and even white flour noodles were a luxury, that was unforgivable. She never reached out again. Feng Shenhua invited us to dinner at her place. Hu Qingshan agreed. He clearly wanted a private word with the commissar about leaking classified information at home. She invited me too, but I knew she didn't mean it. I said my body wasn't feeling well and I'd stay home. She didn't push it at all, just offered to have Shenhua bring me some food later. Hu Qingshan glanced at me. He probably thought I was still the same snob who refused to eat with country people. He said nothing and went to the trunk. The driver grabbed the bedding first. Feng Shenhua rushed over to help, but as she passed me, she suddenly twisted her ankle and lunged at me. In the scramble, she grabbed the scarf off my neck and yanked it away. I stepped back just in time to avoid her falling on me, but I hadn't expected the scarf was her real target. Clever girl. I almost laughed. She steadied herself. Clutching my scarf, eyes wide with fake innocence. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to," but her eyes were sharp and cruel. She'd noticed my neck marks back at the hospital. Now, with all these women watching, she wanted to expose me, to announce to the whole compound that I'd run off with a man and done shameful things. I could guess exactly what she was planning. I looked at her calmly. "It's fine," she smiled, opened her mouth to speak, then stared hard at my neck and let out a dramatic gasp. "Oh my, what happened to your neck? Why are there so many red marks?" Feng Xuanhua's dramatic shriek made all the wives turn and look at my neck. Feng Xuanhua's face changed. She shoved her sister. "What are you screaming about? Stop making a fuss." She figured Xuanhua was only 18 and didn't understand what those marks really looked like. But the other wives, oh, they understood.
Their eyes said everything.
Meaningful glances passed between them like currency. I waited for everyone to get a good look, then touched my neck casually and smiled like it was nothing. "Oh, these? Qingshan knows all about it." I was trying to go back to my parents' place in the provincial capital. When I stopped at a motel in the city, I got attacked by a robber. He nearly strangled me to death. Luckily, Qingshan got there in time and saved me. That's why my neck looks like this. It still hurts when I touch it. I made sure to call him Qingshan, warm, familiar, like we were close. Then I turned to him. "Right, Qingshan? I was gambling." No man wants to publicly admit his wife cheated on him. He had every reason to back my story. Hua Qingshan looked at me, then at Feng Xuanhua. "She's injured and needs rest. I'm taking her home first. Tell the commissar I'll come by a little later." He didn't confirm my robbery story directly, but saying I was injured was close enough. It gave the whole thing his stamp of approval. I couldn't help smiling. This man was really not bad at all. Feng Xuanhua couldn't believe he'd cover for me. She bit her lip, unwilling to let this chance slip away. "Oh, so it was a robber? I thought those marks were from something else." Feng Xuanhua's face went dark, but before she could shut her sister up, I was already smiling sweetly. "From what, exactly?" "Xuanhua, you're only 18 years old. You sure know a lot about these things." Her face turned red. She opened her mouth, closed it, couldn't think of a single thing to say. She just stood there watching me walk away, beside Hua Qingshan, fuming. Once we were out of earshot, Feng Xuanhua glared at her sister. "What is wrong with you? You're an unmarried girl saying things like that? Do you want to ruin your own reputation?" The other wives jumped in to smooth things over. "She didn't mean it. She's just a young girl, she doesn't know what she's saying." But I knew none of them believed that. In a place with no TV, no entertainment, nothing to do, gossip was the main event. I'd just handed them enough material to write a whole soap opera in their heads. I couldn't keep up with Hua Qingshan's long stride, so I slowed down and watched him walk into the cleanest yard on the row. Clean, but empty. No plants, no tools, no signs of life, just wild grass growing in the damp patches. Every yard on either side looked lived in and warm. Ours looked abandoned. The driver dropped off the luggage at the door and left. Hua Qingshan had his hands full, so I hurried over. "Let me get the door." He said nothing but handed me the key. I unlocked it and pushed the door open, letting him in first. Then I slipped in behind him and took my first real look at the place I'd be living. It was rough. Packed dirt floors that looked dusty no matter how much you swept. 2 rooms. The front room had a coal stove against the wall, a dish cabinet, and a single bed piled with random stuff. A small dining table sat in the middle with dirty dishes still on it from when the original Su Suaning had left days ago. I felt embarrassed just looking at them. The back room was neater, but just as bare. A heated wall connected to the stove in the front. A double bed, only about 1.5 meters wide. A tall cabinet. A desk with 3 drawers by the window, and a wooden chair. That was it. I sighed inside. The 1970s were no joke. Then I noticed he'd set down only 1 set of bedding on the bed. Without thinking, I blurted out, "Where are you sleeping tonight?" The second it left my mouth, I remembered. 3 months ago, the night the original Su Suaning got pregnant, she'd actually been the one who started it. She grabbed his hand, smiled at him, pulled him in. But the next morning, she woke up and lost her mind. She screamed, cried, clawed at him, accused him of forcing her, threatened to report him to the leadership. Qingshan had been so furious his face turned to stone. He packed up and moved to the barracks. He never came back. My question obviously brought all that back. He frowned at me. This baby and this marriage were never what you wanted. Even with your memory gone, use these next few days to think carefully. He was done being jerked around. That night, she had been the one lighting fires all over him, laughing, pulling him close. And, by morning she was screaming assault. He'd made up his mind. Even with my amnesia, this marriage was over. He'd let me recover first, but eventually we were getting divorced. He wasn't going to wait for me to get my memory back and start the chaos all over again. I looked him straight in the eye, as serious as I could. I mean it. I really want this baby. I don't remember what happened before, but just thinking about this child growing inside me makes me happy. He didn't believe me. Get some rest. I'll have the kitchen send food over. He walked past me and went to the front room. I followed him, wanting to explain more, to keep working on our relationship. But he was already busy, collecting the dirty dishes into a basin, then crouching down to start the stove. The place had been empty for days. It was early April in the Northwest, and without a fire going, the nights would be bone cold. I leaned against the doorframe and watched him work. He used dry grass to catch the spark, fed in thin pieces of wood, waited for them to catch, then added coal. He put the lid on, set the kettle on top, then went to the washstand by the door to clean his hands. I had to admit, watching him was something. Sleeves pushed up past his elbows, solid forearms with clean muscle lines, bronze skin that practically radiated strength. Even doing housework, Qingshan looked good. After I was done quietly admiring him, I mumbled, "You can't keep judging me by who I used to be. I'm going to change. I don't know what I did before, but not wanting the baby? That was terrible." He straightened up, grabbed the towel, and seemed like he was about to say something. Then Feng Xuanhua's voice came from outside the door. "Brother Hua, my brother-in-law is home. He's calling you over for dinner." I quickly shooed him along. "Go eat. When you come back, we'll talk properly." Qingshan grabbed his military jacket from the hook by the door. He pulled it open, stepped halfway out, then stopped. He turned back to look at me. "There are letters and a diary in the desk drawer. Read them. Maybe they'll help you remember something." After Qingshan left, I rushed to the desk and pulled open the drawer. The letters were shoved in messily, and the red plastic diary had clearly been flipped through. Qingshan must have searched here for clues before going to find the original Su Suaning. I read the diary first, then painfully went through all the letters. 2 were from her family back home, both asking for money and ration tickets. The rest were from a man named Qin Jingchen. His letters didn't say, "I love you" outright, but every line dripped with things like, "You are my soul's companion," and "the longing that haunts my dreams." The original Su Suaning had even underlined her favorite phrases and written little notes beside them. I didn't understand this woman at all. Then I read through the diary again, and my heart sank. If Qingshan had read this diary, and he definitely had, then fixing things between us was going to be way harder than I thought. Every page was full of bitterness about being forced to marry him. She wrote about how uncultured he was, how rough his lifestyle felt. She even complained that when he came back from training, his sweat made the air feel vulgar and suffocating. She said every single day living with him was torture. She wrote that if she could die, she would, but she had someone she loved, and for him, she'd keep going. My teeth hurt just reading it. The original Su Suaning was completely blinded by love. That Qin Jingchen guy did nothing but write flowery letters, and she acted like he was her whole world. I sighed, shoved everything back in the drawer, and made a mental note to burn all of it in front of Qingshan later. A good dramatic gesture to show my new self. I opened the other drawer and found a stack of money and various ration tickets. There was a note on top. The original Su Suaning had written that this was Qingshan's money, and she was too proud to take a single cent when she left. I counted it. 135 yuan and 84 cents. In this era, that was a fortune. There were also grain tickets, oil tickets, meat tickets, cloth tickets, and sugar tickets. Qingshan sent these home every month, Even when he wasn't around, he'd have the company clerk deliver them. I organized everything neatly and felt a wave of respect for the man. Even with the original Su Suaning treating him like garbage, he still took care of her. He had a strong sense of responsibility. A man like that I needed to hold on tight. Just ride this out for the next 2 years, stay safe, stay stable. The fire warmed up the room, and I started feeling sleepy. I was debating whether to lie down. I was pregnant, after all. Rest was important. When someone knocked on the door, a young soldier stood outside, holding 2 lunch boxes. His face was stiff. He shoved the boxes toward me. "Commander Hu told me to bring you food." Then he turned and practically ran away. Didn't call me sister-in-law. Didn't say another word. I could feel his hostility. I sighed. With the way the original Su Suaning had acted, nobody here would like me. I was wearing her skin now, so I'd inherited all her debts. I opened the boxes. One had stir-fried potato slices, barely any oil. The other had a rough grain bun and 2 boiled eggs. The potatoes were plain, but in this era, even that was decent. 2 eggs? That was luxury for the military kitchen. I sat by the stove, eating my simple dinner, thinking about how to survive the days ahead. Meanwhile, over at the commissar's house, Feng Shunhua was putting on a show. She'd volunteered to cook, made scallion flatbread and dressed pickled vegetables with hot oil. The smell filled the whole house. Feng Shunhua complained about how much cooking oil she used, but Feng Shunhua said she wanted to impress their guest. The truth was, knowing Hu Qingshan was sitting right there in the next room gave her endless energy. Inside, Hu Qingshan was asking Commissar Yan Jianzhong directly, had he told anyone at home about the injury from the mission? Yan Jianzhong was shocked. I would never talk about that at home. What happened? Hu Qingshan didn't hide it. Your sister-in-law knew I was injured. Who told her? Yan Jianzhong was stunned. He promised to look into it, but also defended Feng Shunhua. She was just a simple country girl, didn't even finish primary school, hardworking and innocent. Probably no bad intentions.
Hua.
Qingshan just said, "Still, be more careful." Then Yan Jianzhong asked about something else. Now that I was back, should he talk to me about settling down and making the marriage work? They had a baby on the way, after all. Hu Qingshan refused flatly. No need. She wants a divorce. Once her body recovers, we'll abort the baby and end it. Feng Shunhua walked in at exactly that moment carrying the flatbread. She heard every word. Her lips curled into a smile, and her steps got bouncier. Abort the baby, divorce. Music to her ears. She set the food down, acting shy, waiting for Hu Qingshan to compliment her cooking. Feng Shunhua praised her enthusiastically, the hot oil pickles, the crispy flatbread. But Hu Qingshan didn't even glance at Feng Shunhua. He ate 1 flatbread, drank 1 bowl of porridge, and put his chopsticks down. Then from outside, my voice rang out loud and clear. Hu Qingshan, are you done eating? I'm here to walk you home. Commissar Yan heard my voice and looked surprised. Xiao Su came to pick you up? Come inside, have some food. I stood outside the little yard, smiling brightly. No thank you, Commissar Yan. I just finished eating. I was out for a walk and thought I'd swing by to walk Qingshan home. He laughed, clearly confused by how polite I was being. The old Su Suaning had never spoken a friendly word to anyone here. After Hu Qingshan said goodbye and walked over to me, I waved at the commissar. We're heading back. Good night. He just stood there, blinking. After we left, I heard him mumble to his wife. When is she so polite? She's like a different person. Feng Shunhua snorted. She probably suffered enough out there for 3 days to finally appreciate what she has. The commissar told her to stop gossiping. Then he glanced at Feng Shunhua, who was also standing in the doorway watching us leave. He didn't say anything to her, but I had a feeling he was going to keep a closer eye on her. I had to practically jog to keep up with Hu Qingshan's long legs. Slow down. I can't keep up. My stomach hurts if I walk too fast. My voice came out soft and whiny like a little girl asking for candy. He slowed down without a word. I smiled to myself. Some things work on men, no matter what era you're in. I caught my breath and talked fast. I read the diary and the letters. The old me was really terrible. I'm going to change. You can hold me to it. He glanced at me. Get healthy first. Still didn't believe me. But I wasn't discouraged. I had time. Qingshan, you should bring your things home and sleep here tonight. Feng Shanhua said you're hurt. I could take care of you. He frowned. No need. I have night duty. I let my voice drop a little, sounding disappointed.
Okay. Take care of yourself then.
Oh, and tomorrow I want to clean up the yard and build a little outdoor kitchen. He couldn't figure me out. How could amnesia change a person this much? Could someone suddenly like what they used to hate? He gave a flat response. Do what you want. He walked me home, checked the stove fire, pushed another piece of coal in, and left without another word. I lay in bed that night thinking. Honestly, Hu Qingshan had been more than fair. Another man might have dragged me by the hair back to my parents and been done with it. A strange new world, a body that wasn't mine, a life I'd never asked for. It was a lot. But then I thought about my old life, working like a slave, 9 to 10 every day, barely any days off, eating garbage while smiling at demanding clients, and suddenly the 1970s didn't seem so bad. I fell asleep somewhere between worrying and feeling hopeful. When I woke up, I stared at the newspaper-covered ceiling for a few confused seconds before remembering where I was. Sunlight came through the curtains. Birds were singing outside. It actually felt peaceful. I had no watch, no clock. I could hear women chatting and children playing outside. I remember my plan, build that kitchen today, and sat up quickly. Too quickly. A sharp pull in my lower belly made me gasp. I kept forgetting there was a baby in there. I found some clothes, black pants, white shirt, a thin green sweater on top, collar flipped out. I braided my hair into a loose braid over one shoulder. In the mirror, I looked much more put together than before. More alive. I was still fussing with my bangs when the door opened. Hu Qingshan walked in carrying a lunchbox. The stove was already burning strong. He must have come by earlier this morning to start the fire without waking me. I smiled at him, genuinely happy. You're back. Don't bother sending lunch later. I'll go buy some vegetables and cook at home today. He set the food on the table and paused. You really want to build a kitchen in the yard? I nodded. It's getting warm. Everyone else cooks outside. We should too. It'll keep the room cleaner. I went out to wash up. The moment I stepped into the yard, the group of wives who'd been chatting nearby all looked away at the same time, pretending they hadn't been talking about me. I just made a face and went back inside. Breakfast was one steamed bun, a little pickled vegetable, and an egg. But then Hu Qingshan pulled out the tin of malted milk powder he bought yesterday and set it in front of me. The rice porridge at the mess hall was too thin this morning. Drink this instead. Then he added, the hot water in the thermos was just boiled. It's still very hot. Let it cool down a bit before you mix it. I bit into my bun and looked up at him. The hot water was too hot, so let it cool first. He noticed that kind of thing. This careful, thoughtful man. Why on earth had the original Su Suaning thrown him away? I was about to swallow my bite and say thank you when a scream tore through the air from outside. Somebody help. Quick, help. Before I could even react, Hu Qingshan had already bolted out the door. I dropped my bun and ran after him. A woman was sitting on the ground outside, clutching a blood-covered child and sobbing. Hu Qingshan went straight over. What happened? She was crying too hard to speak. Someone nearby explained. A stray dog had bitten the child's face and thigh. I looked at the kid, maybe 3 or 4 years old, shaking silently in the woman's arms. The face had clear bite marks with swelling around them, and a chunk of flesh on the leg was torn open. The woman was Lu Yuchen, wife of Battalion Commander Song Shuangxi. The original Su Suaning knew her, of course, knew everyone, and looked down on all of them equally. Hu Qingshan scooped up the child without hesitation. Stop crying. We need to get to the clinic. Lu Yuchen scrambled up and ran after him. I had a bad feeling in my gut, so I decided to follow. A wound like this from a stray dog wasn't just about cleaning it up. The child needed a rabies vaccine and a tetanus shot immediately. I walked slowly, and by the time I reached the clinic, Feng Shanhua and Feng Chunhua were already crowding the doorway with a few other women. Inside, the child was screaming. The doctor was telling Hu Qingshan the child needed to go to the city's disease prevention center for the rabies vaccine. Hui Qingshan ordered a car prepared immediately. While they waited, Lu Yuchen came out holding the child, crying to Feng Chunhua about how a wild dog had gotten into the compound. Feng Chunhua agreed it was terrifying. Some crazy dog had charged in that morning. Then Feng Chunhua made her move. She said casually, "Sister, wasn't that black and yellow dog the one I saw before?" She turned and looked right at me. "I saw you feeding a stray dog a few times. A black and yellow one. So that was the bad feeling." She was trying to pin this on me, make everyone think I'd been luring wild dogs into the compound. But hearing her say it out loud actually made me calmer. I frowned, keeping my face serious. "What are you talking about?" "I fed a dog." Feng Chunhua pushed harder. She turned to her sister. "Remember, you told me you brought some flatbread over for her once, and she turned around and threw it to the stray dog at her door? Isn't that right?" Feng Chunhua's face got awkward. Her sister had no sense of timing. Saying this in front of Hui Qingshan was basically asking to offend him. Before Feng Chunhua could try to smooth it over, I spoke up, calm as anything. "I don't remember that at all. Fed a dog with flatbread? If that really happened, you should have stopped me. What a waste of food." Then I walked over to Hui Qingshan, switching to something actually useful. "It's early spring right now, the lean season between harvests. We're close to the mountains. It's not just stray dogs. Wild boars and other animals could come down too. Someone should organize a sweep to catch or drive them away. The family compound isn't even inside the base perimeter. There's not a single fence around it." Then I turned to Lu Yuchen and pulled 5 yuan out of my pocket, a big amount in this era, and pressed it into her hand. "When you get to the city, make sure they give him both the rabies vaccine and a tetanus shot. Stray dogs carry all kinds of diseases. This is a little something from Qingshan and me." After the shots, buy the boy some egg cakes and milk powder. I held the child's small hand. "Poor thing went through so much. Make sure you spoil him a little." I wasn't doing this because I suddenly loved socializing. I was doing it because improving my relationship with Hui Qingshan meant showing him I could be thoughtful and useful. It worked. I could see the surprise on his face. The old Su Suaning would never have thought about any of this. When Lu Yuchen tried to refuse the money, Hui Qingshan backed me up. "Take it. Buy the child something to eat. And buy some candy on the way back. I'll arrange a team to go into the hills and clear out those animals." Lu Yuchen accepted, thanked Hui Qingshan, then hesitated before looking at me. "Thank you too." I just smiled.
Don't mention it.
Just keep him healthy. After the car left for the city, I exhaled with relief. Good thing I'd followed them to the clinic. If I hadn't been there, Feng Chunhua would have had free rein to fill Hui Qingshan's ears with stories about me attracting dangerous animals into the compound. I looked at Hui Qingshan. "Shall we go home?" He glanced at me. "You go ahead. I need to go to the regiment office and arrange a task." He'd actually listened to my suggestion about the mountain sweep. He took it seriously. That told me something important. This man could be reasoned with. He was willing to listen. That was something I could work with. I watched him leave, feeling satisfied. Feng Chunhua was furious. Another perfect opportunity, and I'd slipped right through it. She was probably cursing Lu Yuchen too. 5 yuan, and suddenly the woman forgot all about wanting to blame me? She used to hate me just like everyone else. Feng Chunhua was annoyed at me as well. She thought I'd been throwing her under the bus with that comment about how she should have stopped me from feeding the dog. She'd only seen it through the window and had been too angry to do anything. What was she supposed to do, fight the dog for the bread? I turned and looked at the two sisters. I could read the frustration all over their faces. I gave them a warm smile. "Sister Chunhua, I'm heading home." Then I placed my hand on my still flat belly, held my lower back like a proper pregnant lady, and strolled away nice and slow. Behind me, Feng Chunhua was grinding her teeth. Once I was out of earshot, she hissed at her sister. "What's she so smug about? A shameless woman who ran off with another man. How does she have the nerve to come back?" Feng Chunhua spun around, checked that nobody else was listening, and pinched Chunhua's arm hard. "Shut your mouth. This isn't our village where you can say whatever you want. Watch what you say in this compound." Feng Chunhua winced but didn't back down. "Am I wrong? Aren't you thinking the same thing?" "She doesn't deserve Hui Qingshan." Feng Chunhua was older and sharper. Something in her sister's words suddenly clicked. Her voice turned cold. Shenhua, get rid of whatever ideas you're having. You're an unmarried girl. Do you want people pointing at your back and whispering? Feng Shenhua just laughed. I'll make you a bet, sister. Su Suaning and Hui Qingshan won't last. Feng Shenhua warned her sister one last time. Whatever happened between me and Hui Qingshan was none of her business, and if she kept having inappropriate thoughts, she'd be sent back to the village. Feng Shenhua shut up fast. Going back meant earning work points from dawn to dark, barely enough to eat. Life at the family compound was 100 times better. Feng Shenhua softened eventually. Her little sister had always been the pretty one, skin that wouldn't tan no matter how much sun she got, looking like a city girl even though she grew up farming. The neighbors always said Shenhua would marry well someday. She offered to introduce Shenhua to some unmarried young soldiers in the regiment. But Shenhua refused. She came back to this life for Hui Qingshan and nobody else. She said she wasn't ready to marry yet, maybe in a couple of years. In her head, she was thinking, I just have to outlast Su Suaning. After breakfast, I started cleaning up the yard. But this body was in terrible shape. Just pulling weeds, picking up rocks and bricks, and sweeping the ground nearly made me collapse. I dragged out a little stool, sat in the yard, and ate some of the bread Hui Qingshan had bought. I needed to eat more, build up my strength. If I was still this weak in late pregnancy, childbirth could be dangerous, and I already knew from the novel that the original Su Suaning died exactly that way. I couldn't help laughing at the irony. In my old life, I'd planned to never marry, never have kids, save 5 million yuan, and retire to a little country house. Now heaven had dropped me straight into the countryside and made me a mom for free. But I wasn't worried. I'd always been a good student. I loved learning. Even in the 1970s, I was confident I could build a good life. I sat there chewing bread, looking at my tiny yard, and started planning. I'd plant flowers along the fence, build a shed, make a proper cooking stove, a dining table, and a little washing basin. In my mind, I could already see a clean, charming outdoor kitchen. The problem was I couldn't do the heavy work alone. Building a shed needed wood. I didn't know how to lay bricks for a stove. I'd need Hui Qingshan's help. So, step 1. Cook something really good for lunch to soften him up. I grabbed some money and ration tickets, tossed a small sickle into my basket, and headed out. Right outside the compound, I ran into Feng Shenhua chatting with a military wife named Li Qin, the compound's biggest gossip. They were holding baskets, waiting for someone. Li Qin saw me and turned away like I was invisible. Feng Shenhua, naturally, was all smiles. Going to buy groceries? Doesn't brotherhood bring your meals? I was so tired of her fake innocent act. This woman had the soul of a 50-year-old schemer crammed into an 18-year-old body, and she was still playing the sweet young girl. I stopped and smiled right at her. Well, you said Hui Qingshan was injured, right? I'm going to buy some meat to help him recover. That wiped the smile off her face. Yesterday's slip about the classified injury had been eating at her all night. She'd been terrified Hui Qingshan would tell the commissar, and she'd have to explain how she knew military secrets. When the commissar didn't ask her about it last night, she thought she'd gotten away with it. Now here I was, bringing it up again, right in front of Li Qin, the compound's walking loudspeaker.
He blinks her hair innocently.
You're the one who told me Qingshan was hurt. Did you forget? She had no choice but to grit her teeth and nod.
Right.
Go ahead then. She could feel something was off but couldn't figure out what. Every time she came at me thinking she had the upper hand, I somehow flipped it around on her. After I walked away, Li Qin immediately pounced. Shenhua, Commander Hua, is injured? Where? Is it serious? I left Feng Shenhua to deal with that mess. At the supply store, the line was long. Fresh produce came from the city and didn't arrive until almost noon. Because the original Su Suaning had 0 friends, nobody tried to talk to me in line. For once, her terrible reputation was actually useful. When my turn came, there was half a pig and 2 pigs' feet left. I watched the women ahead of me grab the fattiest cuts, probably to render into lard that would last for weeks. Smart. I bought 2 pounds of fatty pork belly and 1 pig's foot. I'd stew the trotter for Qingshan to help him heal. Then render the fat from the belly into cooking oil. On the way here, I'd noticed wild vegetables growing along the field ridges and in the tree line. I could pick some, chop up the leftover pork cracklings from the lard, mix them together and make dumplings. Real wild vegetables from clean countryside. Way better than the ones people dug out of city flower beds back in my time. I bought some seasonings and a bottle of soy sauce, feeling great about my lunch plan. On the way back, I passed Feng Chunhua, and Li Qin again. I didn't bother saying hello. As I walked by, I heard Feng Chunhua asking Li Qin in a voice meant for me to hear, "Is it true the art troupe is coming to perform? And Brother Hua is personally going to welcome them? Is that rumor true, that he had a girlfriend in the art troupe?" I kept walking. I had zero interest in that kind of bait. Whether Qingshan had an ex-girlfriend was none of my concern. Based on everything I'd seen, he wasn't the type to mess around while married. And even if the novel's plot dragged us toward divorce eventually, by then the political situation would be loosening up. I'd be fine on my own. I talked myself into a good mood, hummed a little song, and stopped by the field on the way home. The wild vegetables growing on the shady side of the ridges were still tender. I crouched down and started cutting them with my sickle. The driver, Li Zigua, happened to be bringing Qingshan back from division headquarters. He spotted me from the road and slowed the car. "Commander, isn't that your wife?" Qingshan saw me too, crouching in the dirt in my green sweater, digging up wild greens. He couldn't believe it. The woman who used to refuse food that wasn't fancy enough was now squatting in a field harvesting weeds. Li Zigua, thinking he was being clever, tapped the brakes to give his commander a better look. Qingshan was about to scold him for slowing down, when a black and yellow dog burst out of the field and charged straight at me. Qingshan shouted for the car to stop and pulled out his pistol. He fired at the wild dog just before it reached me. The shot hit. The dog dropped dead about 3 or 4 meters away. But I'd already thrown myself sideways into a shallow irrigation ditch the moment I saw it charging. I was still gripping my little sickle, ready to fight the thing if I had to. When the gun went off, the sound startled me, and I tumbled into the ditch. I caught my breath, stood up covered in grass and dirt, and climbed out. Qingshan and Li Zigua were already right there. Qingshan looked at me, twigs in my hair, mud on my clothes. "Are you okay?" I rubbed my belly and smiled at him.
"I'm fine."
The gunshot just scared me. His eyes followed my hand to my stomach, and something flickered in his expression. Then he turned to Li Zigua, who was examining the dead animal. Li Zigua kicked it and frowned. "Commander, this looks like a dhole, a wild dog. See the big bushy tail." Qingshan crouched down for a closer look. "When we get back, have 2 military dogs stationed at the family compound." I was curious too, so I went a look. It did look like a dog, but the ears were small, the tail was fluffy, and the tip was solid black. "There are dholes in the mountains." Li Zigua jumped in before Qingshan could answer. "There are wolves and wild boars too. Deeper in, there are bears. But they usually don't come down." I shrank back a little. The wilderness around here was no joke. Probably because the ecosystem was still intact in this era, and people were fewer, more room for wild animals. Qingshan ordered Li Zigua to get the shovel from the car and bury the dhole in the trees. Then he told him to come back later with lime to spread over the spot and prevent bacteria. That's when I noticed it. As Qingshan turned, I saw a patch of blood soaking through his military jacket at the shoulder. I gasped. "Qingshan, your shoulder wound is bleeding. The gunshot's recoil must have torn his injury open again." He'd been in such a rush to shoot the dog that he hadn't been careful about his stance. I hurried around to face him. "Is the wound ripped open?" "It's still bleeding. You need to get that treated right now." I felt terrible that I hadn't even noticed where his injury was before. His shoulder. And he'd been carrying luggage, folding bedding, starting fires, doing everything without a single complaint. How much pain had he been hiding? He brushed it off. "It's nothing. Just a small wound." But when Li Zigua saw the blood and offered to drive him to the clinic, Qingshan didn't refuse this time. I grabbed my basket and jumped into the back seat. "I'm coming too." I needed to see how bad the wound really was, then figure out what to cook to help him heal. At the clinic, He sent Li Jigua back to handle the military dog arrangement. He saw me hovering at the doorway and seemed about to tell me to go home, but gave up. He'd figured out something about the new me. I had an automatic filter for things I didn't want to hear. I only listened to what suited me and did whatever I wanted. He turned his back to the door so the doctor could change his bandages. When his shirt came off, I was first shocked by the wound. It was on his shoulder blade, ugly, jagged, the kind of shape that comes from a bullet punching clean through from the front. A through-and-through wound. The hardest kind to heal. Then the doctor started wrapping fresh gauze, and my attention shifted to everything else. Bronze skin. Broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist. Back muscles with clean, smooth lines. The man was built like a sculpture. I died single at 26 without ever seeing a body like this up close. I actually wondered what his abs would feel like. Were they really hard like chocolate bars? The doctor finished bandaging and helped him dress. Commander Hua, you really can't strain this wound anymore. This time it only tore a little. Then the doctor looked at me. Make sure he eats nutritious food so the wound heals faster. My eyes lit up. I lifted my basket. Already on it. I bought everything. I'll start cooking as soon as we get home. The doctor seemed surprised. He'd met me before, and the old Su Suaning had never been this warm or cheerful. Hua Qingshan buttoned his jacket and turned around. He gave me a look. He'd felt my stare on his bare back the entire time, shameless, unfiltered, practically burning holes through him. And now I was standing here with bright sparkling eyes and a slightly sneaky grin. I held up my basket. Shall we go home? This time he didn't refuse. We walked out together. I suddenly remembered something. Wait 1 second, let me ask the doctor about dietary restrictions. Before he could object, I was already jogging back inside with my basket bouncing. I came out a while later smiling, the basket now loaded with extra gauze, cotton, and Yunnan Baiyao medicine. I beamed at him. Now I can change your bandages at home. No need to bother Dr. Chen every time. He ignored my smile, furrowed his brow slightly, and just said, let's go. On the walk back, he slowed his pace so I could keep up without getting tired. I noticed something. It wasn't just that he didn't like talking to me specifically. He was a quiet, serious person by nature. Few words for everyone. That was fine. I talked enough for both of us. Can I dig wild vegetables in that orchard across from the clinic? He didn't understand my sudden obsession with wild greens. Most people only ate them when they had nothing else. They were bitter and rough, a symbol of hard times. But he answered, you can. Just don't damage the fruit trees. I'd already spotted shepherd's purse, dandelion greens, and purslane in there. People in this era were sick of wild vegetables.
To them, foraging meant poverty.
But me? I loved this stuff. At the compound entrance, a military dog was already tied up by the gate, and a soldier stood guard. Hua Qingshan told me to go ahead while he spoke to the sentry. He instructed the guard to stay alert for wild animals and authorized lethal force if necessary. As he finished and was about to enter the gate, a voice called out from behind, sweet and eager. Brother Hua. Wait, I need to talk to you. Feng Shenhua. Feng Shenhua caught Hua Qingshan at the gate before he could walk in. She pulled him aside, away from the sentry, and lowered her voice. Brother Hua, don't you think something is off about your wife? He just frowned and walked into the compound. Then he stopped and looked at her. What do you want to say? She played nervous, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. I know it's not my place, but you're such a good person. I can't stand watching you get fooled. She paused for effect, waiting to see if she'd hooked him. When he didn't respond, she kept going. She says she lost her memory, but amnesia doesn't change someone's personality. Her whole character is different. Haven't you noticed? Hua Qingshan didn't like people dancing around a point. His voice went cold. Say what you mean. She put on her most innocent face. When I went to the city, I heard some things. The man she was seeing, he asked her for a big sum of money, and she promised to give it to him. When I went to see her at the hospital, I actually saw that man at the entrance. He was talking to the guard, asking about her condition. I heard him tell the guard they were truly in love, but couldn't be together because of certain circumstances. Pure lies, spun out of thin air. But rumors only need a mouth and a listener. Hua Qingshan's brow tightened. Is that true? She raised her hand like she was swearing. I swear it. I heard him with my own ears. I didn't dare tell anyone else, not even my sister.
I just don't want you to get deceived.
She's changed so much. She must be planning something. Please be careful. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. All right. I hear you. Then he turned and walked away. Feng Shunhua stood there stunned. She'd made up all of that, and his reaction was almost nothing? He didn't seem angry or upset. What kind of man hears his wife has a lover who's sniffing around the hospital and just says, all right? By the time Hu Qingshan got home, I'd already changed into a light red jacket with my sleeves rolled up, crouching in the yard washing wild vegetables. The tender green leaves tumbled through my fingers in the water, catching bits of light. He paused for a couple seconds, watching me. I looked up and smiled. You're back. I just got the fire started. We're having dumplings for lunch. I'd figured out the stove by watching him do it twice. Tried it myself. As long as you had something to catch the spark, it wasn't that hard. He went inside to check the fire and discovered I'd done it completely wrong. I'd thrown coal on top without clearing the old ash from the grate first. He crouched down and fixed it without a word. I came in carrying the washed vegetables. Did I do it wrong? He actually explained, more words than usual. Clean out the ash before adding coal. Oh, I'll remember that next time. I had no idea there were so many tricks to starting a fire. I went to cut the pork. Even holding the knife was hard with these weak hands. He offered to take over. I stopped him.
No.
Your shoulder is hurt.
Sit down and rest.
I'll manage. He didn't sit. Instead, he found a whetstone and said, let me sharpen the knife for you. I handed it over and watched him work, long fingers pressing the blade flat against the stone, stroking back and forth with steady force. Something about the simple scene made me feel warm. This was what normal life was supposed to look like. I was good with my hands and worked fast. I rendered the pork fat into lard, set the cracklings aside to cool, and mixed the dough. By the time Hu Qingshan came back from a quick errand, I'd already finished wrapping, row after row of plump, round dumplings lined up neatly. I grinned at him. Perfect timing. I'm about to cook them. We can eat soon. Then, without thinking twice, I told him, it's too hot in here. Open the door and the window so we get some air. We really can't keep cooking indoors. He said nothing, but he did it. Just quietly followed my instructions. I dropped the dumplings into the boiling water and watched them float up, white and puffy. My mouth was practically watering. Being married to a military commander meant I got to eat white flour. If I'd transmigrated into some rural village, there'd be no chance of living this well. That thought made me smile at him even sweeter. Should I crush some garlic? Wait. You're going back to the regiment this afternoon. Garlic breath would be bad. Let's just do chili and vinegar. My smile caught him off guard. Then he noticed the bowl of chili oil on the table. Deep red, glistening, swimming in oil. Incredibly tempting. Nobody around here used that much oil for anything. Hot chili oil was something people only made for New Year. Usually they just mixed a little soy sauce with water and called it a dip. He didn't comment, but I could tell he was mentally calculating whether I had enough oil ration tickets left. I set 3 big plates of dumplings on the table and called out cheerfully, time to eat. While I grabbed chopsticks and bowls, he moved the pot off the stove, covered the fire, and put a kettle on. Without being asked. Just naturally helpful. I paused, impressed. This man really did notice everything. After he sat down and washed his hands, I pushed the vinegar bottle over. Mix some chili and vinegar for dipping. Trust me, it's amazing with the dumplings. I already had half a bowl mixed for myself. He took the vinegar and looked at the table, steaming dumplings, a smiling wife. In 6 months of marriage, this was the first time this house felt anything like a home. The dumplings were delicious. The filling was juicy and savory. Hu Qingshan ate them steadily, fast but not sloppy, and I could tell they were the best dumplings he'd ever had. Of course they were. I'd been generous with the oil, loaded them with pork cracklings and meat. How could they not be good? Watching him enjoy the food made me happy. I still have leftover cracklings. I'll go dig more wild vegetables later and make steamed buns with them. He actually responded this time voluntarily. Be careful when you go. The peach blossoms just opened. There are a lot of mountain bees. My smile got even bigger. He was warning me to be safe. That meant our relationship had taken a real step forward. I nodded. I'll be careful. Oh, and the shed outside, can you send a few soldiers to help build it? I can't handle the heavy lifting, he nodded. I'll have people come this afternoon. Tell them what you want, and they'll do it. I was satisfied. This was exactly the kind of partnership I wanted. I say what needs doing, he makes it happen, everything gets a response. 3 plates of dumplings, I ate 1 whole plate. He finished the other 2. I felt like my belly had expanded a full size. I was eating at least double what the original Suwaning ever did. At this rate, maybe I could actually build up enough strength that childbirth wouldn't kill me. I was lost in that thought when someone shouted from outside the door.
Suwaning.
Telegram. I froze when I heard telegram. I went outside to get it, my heart pounding. Please don't let it be from that useless man the original Suwaning was in love with. The mailman had me sign for the telegram and then handed me a letter too. I looked at the sender's name on the envelope. Chun Jingchen. My vision went dark.
Of course it was him.
I had zero interest in reading his letter. I opened the telegram instead, just 4 characters. Father sick. Send money. The original Suwaning's family wanted cash. That was never going to happen. I went back inside and brought it up to Qingshan casually. Got a telegram and a letter. The letter is from someone named Chen Jingchen. I don't even know who that is. Why would he write to me? Then I picked up the water kettle lid and tossed both the unopened letter and the telegram into the stove fire. Qingshan was clearly surprised. She didn't even read it before burning it. I seized the moment. I went to the bedroom, grabbed the diary and all of Chen Jingchen's old letters from the drawer, and shoved everything into the stove. The flames roared up. I looked Qingshan straight in the eye and said, very seriously, I read all of these. The person I was before my amnesia was immature. Her thinking was corrupted by bourgeois romanticism, so I'm cutting ties with all of it.
Completely.
I want to live a good life with you. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, put the kettle back on. The flames are going to catch the newspaper on the wall behind the stove. I looked down. Sure enough, fire was licking toward the newspaper pasted on the wall. I slammed the kettle back on and glanced at Qingshan, who was already calmly clearing the dishes. I had no idea if my big speech had actually landed. That afternoon, he showed up with 4 soldiers and a whole cart of wooden beams and planks. I was thrilled. I'd been worrying about where to find building materials. I'd drawn up a simple blueprint earlier. I handed it to him and explained what I wanted. The shape of the shed, where the stove should face, and a stone basin under the water tap for washing. He looked at my drawing, understood immediately, gave the soldiers their instructions, and they got to work. I watched for a while, then went inside to boil water and make tea. The whole compound buzzed with surprise. Commander Hu's wife was building an outdoor kitchen? The woman who never lifted a finger? Who sulked around like a spoiled princess? 3 days away, and she comes back a different person? Feng Shenhua heard the commotion too. She came out holding her sister's youngest son, and saw me standing next to Qingshan, chatting and smiling. The jealousy practically sizzled off her. She used the toddler as her excuse. Brother Hua, little Huzi wants to watch the building. Can we come look? Qingshan glanced at her once and turned back to the work without a word. I almost laughed. The poor kid's forehead was drenched in sweat. She'd been standing out in the sun watching us from a distance for quite a while before she couldn't take it anymore and walked over. She sidled up to me. You're building a kitchen too? I nodded. Too hot to cook inside. She tried again, her voice dripping. Brother Hob is so good to you. I looked at her and smiled. He's my husband and the father of my child. Who else would he be good to? I said it loud enough for Qingshan to hear every word. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the tips of his ears turn red. The new me wasn't just different in personality. I had thicker skin and a bolder mouth. Feng Shenhua got nothing out of that exchange. She stood there wondering, had my fate actually changed because she'd been reborn? Or had the original timeline also included a period where Qingshan and I got along, before I died in childbirth? She stared at his back, calculating. Did she really have to wait 6 more months? Feng Shenhua came rushing out looking for her baby. She spotted Shenhua holding the toddler with her eyes glued to Hu Qingshan and practically sprinted over. "Why did you bring Huzi out here? He hasn't had his nap." She snatched the child away and shot her sister a warning glare. I caught every bit of it. So Feng Chunhua knew about her sister's feelings too. Feng Chunhua pouted. Huzi pointed over here. "He wanted to come." Feng Chunhua glared again. A 2-year-old didn't know anything. It was Xuanhua's intentions written all over her face. She ordered her sister to go home and wash the dishes soaking in the basin. Feng Chunhua left, but not before sneaking one last look at Hu Qingshan. Feng Chunhua looked like she wanted to strangle her. I enjoyed the show. After Shenhua left, Feng Chunhua smiled at me awkwardly and tried to cover for her sister. Shenhua is still young, just likes to play around. She's actually very smart. If she'd been born at a better time, she could have really done something with school. I raised an eyebrow. She does seem mature for 18. Very composed. Are you planning to find her a match in the regiment? Feng Chunhua's smile froze. Oh, she's still young. Our parents don't want her dating so early. I dropped it. As long as I stayed alive, the novel's plot had to collapse. Feng Chunhua could scheme all she wanted. By evening, the kitchen was finished, built exactly to my blueprint, maybe even better than I'd imagined. The soldiers had cut fresh poplar branches to lay across the roof of the shed, and the air smelled like green wood. Hu Qingshan had found a stone trough from somewhere, probably an old animal feeding trough, cleaned it up, propped it on stones under the tap, and turned it into a big rustic washing basin. It actually looked charming, like something out of a countryside magazine. The soldiers washed up and headed out. I pressed a piece of bread into each of their hands. It was all I had to offer. The 4 young guys pushed each other around, embarrassed, then took the bread and jogged off into the sunset. Watching them go, I felt something warm, a kind of youthful energy I hadn't felt in a long time. Then I turned to Hu Qingshan, who was washing his hands at the new basin. "Tonight, move back home." Hu Qingshan was about to refuse when I played my card. Last night my stomach was really uncomfortable. This morning it hurt too. If something happens in the middle of the night, there's nobody around to help. It was half true, half exaggeration. But it worked. He went quiet, then nodded. "I'll go get my bedding. I'll clean up the small bed in the front room and sleep there." That was a huge step forward. He was moving back home. Everything else could come gradually. I walked over to inspect the new stove. The mud was smoothed out nicely, but raw mud would get dirty fast if I put plates or bowls on it. I turned to Hu Qingshan. "Do you think you could find a flat stone slab this size? It would be much cleaner with a stone top." He looked at me, always studying me with that quiet intensity, and nodded again. "I'll check by the river. But the stove needs 2 days to dry before you can use it." I was happy.
No rules.
"I'll go make dinner. You sit in the yard and rest. The pig's foot wouldn't be ready tonight. I'd already salted it for tomorrow." So I made flatbread instead, with pork cracklings folded into the layers, plus some rice porridge and a cold wild vegetable salad. Hu Qingshan had eaten scallion flatbread at the commissar's house last night and thought it was good. But mine was better. The cracklings made it crispy and rich, and even the wild shepherd's purse salad turned out delicious. I could see the surprise on his face. He'd never tasted my cooking before and didn't know I could do this. I made exactly 3 flatbreads. 1 for me, 2 for him. 1 small plate of vegetables. Just enough, nothing wasted. After 2 solid meals in a row, I could feel strength returning to this body. My brain felt sharper too. While Hu Qingshan washed the dishes, I went to organize the small bed against the wall, clearing off the random stuff piled on it. Neither of us spoke. But for the first time, the silence between us felt comfortable. Over at the commissar's house, the atmosphere was very different. Commissar Yan was on night duty, so Feng Chunhua was alone with Shenhua, eating plain cornbread and thin soup with no oil. She couldn't hold back anymore. "I can see right through you," she told her sister. "And if I can see it, so can everyone else in this compound. Keep this up and you'll destroy your own reputation. No one will marry you," Feng Chunhua muttered. "I don't want to marry anyone else." Feng Chunhua's eyes went wide. "Have you lost your mind?"
Who then?
Hu Qingshan, Shenhua, in a moment of recklessness, blurted out that she'd had a dream before coming here, a dream that she would marry Hu Qingshan someday, that he'd become a high-ranking official and she'd be his wife. Feng Chanhua thought her sister had gone completely insane. Even if Hu Qingshan divorced me, why would an 18-year-old want a man 10 years older with baggage? And this talk about him becoming a big official? He came from the mountains, same as them. He had strong military skills but not much education. That was a real ceiling in the system. Look at her own husband, stuck at commissar rank for years with no path up. Feng Chanhua couldn't explain how it would happen. She just knew it was true. She'd seen him on television in her previous life. Feng Chanhua shut her down. If you keep having these ideas, I'm sending you home. And honestly, Su Suaning's suggestion wasn't bad. Find you a nice young soldier your own age. Chanhua was shocked. That was Su Suaning's idea. Feng Chanhua nodded. She's educated. Book-smart people see more than you think. Don't try to outsmart her. Chanhua swallowed her anger and decided to lay low for a few months. She'd just wait. She still didn't believe I could actually survive childbirth. Back at home, I wanted a bath. I'd eaten a lot, the house was warm and I was sweating. There was a bathhouse near division headquarters, but only for winter. In warm weather, everyone just heated water at home. I pulled a big iron basin from under the bed, washed it in the yard, and waited for Hu Qingshan to leave for the barracks to get his bedding. Then I dragged the basin inside, mixed hot and cold water, and washed my hair first. Dumped the water, refilled, washed my body. The whole process was exhausting in this era, hauling water, heating it, pouring it out, over and over. By the time I finished, I was clean but drained. I dried off, put on clean clothes, and wrapped my wet hair in a towel. I wanted to ask Hu Qingshan to help dump the dirty water, but remembered his shoulder wound. I'd carry it out myself, one basin at a time. I pushed the door open with the basin in my hands and nearly crashed right into him. He just walked up to the door. He stepped back. His eyes landed on me, towel wrapped around my hair, small pale face still dewy from the bath, eyes bright and clean. I was wearing a floral pajama top, the collar damp and clinging to my skin, showing a glimpse of collarbone. He froze for a second, then looked away. I can dump that for you. I smiled.
No.
Your shoulder can't handle lifting.
Go rest.
I'll do it in a few trips. I walked past him carrying the basin. As I passed, he caught a trace of something, a soft, clean scent from my hair or skin. He turned quickly and headed for his bed against the wall, bending down to arrange his blankets. His hands were busy, but his thoughts weren't steady. I'd gotten to him, and he knew it. I finished dumping the water, washed the basin, shoved it back under the bed, and came out toweling my hair. Do you have time tomorrow morning? He turned to answer and stopped. I was stretching my arms up to dry my hair, and the motion pressed the thin fabric of my pajamas against my body in a way that made it very obvious I wasn't wearing anything underneath. I hadn't even realized what was happening. The original Su Suaning's undergarments were uncomfortable, probably because of the pregnancy making everything swell and ache, so I'd taken them off after my bath. It felt much better without them. Hu Qingshan wasn't answering my question. I asked again. Do you have time tomorrow? He turned his face away and swallowed.
His voice came out dry.
What do you need? I smiled. I want to go to town and buy some things. Can you take me? I needed a jar for storing lard. The supply store here didn't have anything right, and there were other things I wanted to look for. He didn't refuse. After breakfast tomorrow, I'll have Li Jigua drive us. I was about to go to bed when I thought of something. Is the bookstore in town open? He shook his head. Closed a long time ago. What kind of book do you want? I grinned. Books that improve my ideological thinking, of course. I went to bed feeling great. He was easier to talk to than I'd expected. Hu Qingshan couldn't sleep though. The room was warm. He kicked off his blanket. Still couldn't sleep. The air smelled like dinner, and that faint clean scent I'd left behind. In the darkness, it was stronger. It felt more like a home than it ever had before. The next morning, he'd already brought breakfast from the mess hall by the time I got up. Same as always, bun, pickled vegetables, egg. I washed up in a good mood, and when I saw him pull out the malted milk powder, I stopped him. Make 2 cups. You need nutrition too. I grabbed 2 bowls. He mixed them without arguing and pushed the fuller one toward me. I picked up my bun and asked what they served at the mess hall. He told me buns and pickles most days, vegetable steamed buns on Fridays, 1 egg per person. Meat only once a week at the group meal, otherwise just a little ground meat mixed in. He answered everything I asked, just very briefly. 1 question, 1 answer. It was comfortable. We finished breakfast in an easy rhythm. Li Jigua pulled up with the car right after we cleaned up. I was excited. The town was 3 or 4 kilometers away, and most people walked. I definitely could not walk that far. On the road, I spotted Feng Shenhua carrying one of her sister's kids on her back and holding another by the hand, walking to town with Li Qin. When our car passed them, Shenhua stopped and stared. She saw Hu Qingshan in the front seat and me in the back. He was actually taking me out. Together. In the car. Li Qin muttered some gossip about how we seemed to have made up and how I looked prettier these last couple of days. Feng Shenhua's face went sour. She was hauling kids around trying to build her, hard-working domestic woman, image for Hu Qingshan's benefit, and he didn't even glance her way. Li Qin kept talking. She was the compound's biggest mouth and couldn't help herself. She told Shenhua that Hu Qingshan's mother was a tough woman who'd visited 2 years ago wanting him to marry a village chief's daughter. When he refused, she threw a huge tantrum before the leadership managed to send her home. Apparently, the incident had even hurt his promotion chances. Then Li Qin mentioned that Hu Qingshan's mother hadn't come to our wedding. Nobody knew why. Maybe she wasn't told. The whole marriage had been rushed. Some people said Hu Qingshan had only married so quickly because the woman he actually liked had gotten married to someone else, so he just picked anyone. That's how he ended up with someone as difficult as the original Su Suaning. Feng Shenhua's ears perked up. Who did he like before? Li Qin lowered her voice. A female doctor at the medical unit. That's supposedly why he was still single at 28. But who knows if it's true? Don't spread it around. Feng Shenhua promised she wouldn't, but the information sat heavy in her chest. The town was called Red Flag Town, and it was even smaller than I'd expected. 2 main streets, a supply store, a food shop, the commune office, and a tiny state-run restaurant. Slogans painted on every wall. Spring planting season meant the streets were nearly empty. Hu Qingshan came into the supply store with me. I picked out a medium-sized lard jar with a lid, bought star anise and Sichuan peppercorns, an extra basin. We only had one at home that had to serve for washing vegetables and kneading dough, plus some plates, bowls, and chopsticks. While I was carefully checking each bowl for cracks and chips, I told Hu Qingshan we should invite Commissar Yan and his wife over for dinner sometime. We live in the same compound. It's important to maintain good relationships. I knew exactly what I was doing. Yan Jianzhong handled political work. If I kept him on our side, he wouldn't push for the divorce. Hu Qingshan watched me inspecting bowls with such focus, making sure none had a single flaw. Something in his expression softened. He seemed to be thinking that maybe this kind of life, this simple, ordinary shopping and cooking life, wasn't so bad. We packed everything up. He carried the heavier bags. I hugged the basin. As we got to the car, Li Jigua started the engine and suddenly said, "Commander, isn't that Dr. Zhu Hong?" I saw it from the back seat. Hu Qingshan's back went rigid. Just for a second, his whole body stiffened. Then he looked toward the road, where a woman stood in a white shirt and black skirt. She was too far away to see clearly, but I could tell she was slender with graceful posture. Li Jigua asked, "Should we offer Dr. Zhu a ride?" Hu Qingshan's voice dropped several degrees colder. No, I could smell the story from a mile away. There was definitely something between him and this Zhu Hong. The car drove past her. Hu Qingshan stared straight ahead, face blank as stone. But I couldn't help looking, and what I saw made my stomach drop. The woman's expression, the delicate sadness in her features, the melancholy in her eyes, looked eerily similar to the original Su Suaning. My brain short-circuited. Did Hu Qingshan marry the original Su Suaning because she looked like that woman? Was the original me just a stand-in? I wanted to get a better look at that woman, but the car had already turned the corner and she was gone. My brain worked fast, though. If Hu Qingshan married the original Su Suaning as a stand-in for someone he couldn't have, then fine. I'd be the best stand-in ever. I'd treat keeping him happy like a job. If he was satisfied, maybe he'd give me a better deal when we eventually divorced. Or even better, maybe he could get me a spot at a university. Then I could get a degree, land an iron rice bowl, a government job with a pension. Decades from now, while young people stressed about delayed retirement, I'd already be collecting my pension and dancing in the park. The thought made me so happy, I couldn't help grinning with all my teeth showing. And honestly, him having an old flame and the original Su Suaning having a boyfriend? That made us even. No more guilt on my side. I was sitting there smiling like an idiot when Hu Qingshan turned around to ask if I needed anything else. He caught me staring at nothing with a strange, toothy grin. He cleared his throat. "There's a farm tool shop up ahead. Do you need anything?" I snapped back.
Yes.
A hoe and a small shovel. The small shovel would make digging wild vegetables much easier. The hoe only came as a head without a handle, and I had no idea how to attach one. Hu Qingshan read my confusion. "I'll find a wooden handle and put it on when we get back." My eyes lit up.
Deal.
"I'll take it." I added everything up on the way home. Some things needed ration tickets, some didn't. Those cost more, but the whole haul came to less than 10 yuan. Not bad at all. By the time Feng Shunhua and Li Qin walked all the way to town with 2 kids, we were already home. They browsed around, bought nothing, and walked all the way back. I soaked yesterday's dirty clothes in the yard and checked on the new stove. The mud was drying nicely. While I was washing clothes, a soldier came to get Hu Qingshan. I caught the name Dr. Zhu Hong, so the woman from town had come looking for him. I didn't let it bother me. I stood up and smiled at him as he was leaving. "Come home for lunch. I'm making noodles." He paused mid-step, nodded, said okay, and left. I watched him walk away, smiling until he disappeared. He could probably feel my eyes on his back the whole time. I sat back down and kept scrubbing clothes. I stewed the pig's foot, rolled out fresh noodles, and squeezed in a trip to dig dandelion greens from the orchard. I'd always loved cooking and experimenting with food. My old job just ground me down so badly that I'd come home and collapse, too tired to do anything but order bad takeout. Now I finally had time to do what I enjoyed. The ingredients were limited, but I was happy. When Hu Qingshan came back, I was sitting by the water tap picking through wild vegetables, looking relaxed and cheerful. I tossed the greens into the stone basin and smiled up at him. "Perfect timing. I was waiting for you to cook the noodles. We're having braised pig's foot noodles. Wash your hands right here. Isn't the new setup convenient?" He'd never heard of pig's foot noodles. He washed his hands in the yard and came inside. On the table sat a small pot of braised pig's feet, glossy, deep red-brown, the sauce thick and rich. Next to it was a plate of blanched wild greens. I cooked the noodles and divided everything up. He got the bigger portion of noodles and most of the pig's feet. I kept 2 small pieces and some broth for myself. He stared at the uneven split and tried to move some of his meat into my bowl with his chopsticks. I stopped him. "I have enough. You're injured. You need to eat more. You're the backbone of this family. You train hard every day. You need the nutrition." Something shifted in his eyes. He looked at me for a long moment, then stopped arguing and mixed his noodles. I pushed the cold dandelion salad toward him. "This is good for reducing inflammation. Good for healing." He seemed to notice that even plain wild vegetables tasted special when I made them. When he was almost finished, I made my next move. "I want to plant flowers along the yard fence. Can you help me get some seeds?" He nodded. "The kitchen squad in the regiment maintains the flower beds. I'll ask them." My smile got even brighter. "Thank you. I want flowers that repel mosquitoes, so we can eat dinner outside in the summer evenings without getting bitten." Something like belief flickered across his face, like he was starting to think, maybe I really did want to build a life here. After lunch, he took the dishes to the yard and washed everything without being asked. I didn't stop him. I was tired from the morning and went inside for a nap. I slept deep and hard. When I woke up, the sun had shifted west, probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I went to wash my face and discovered that Hu Qingshan had not only done the dishes, but also washed all the wild vegetables I'd left in the stone basin, arranging them in neat, perfect rows. I laughed out loud. Military habits, even wild greens, had to be organized in formation. I put on a straw hat, grabbed my basket, and headed to the orchard across from the clinic to dig more vegetables. I wanted to dry some for winter, just in case we were still here when the cold months came and fresh produce disappeared. I filled the basket to the brim and walked out of the orchard, and stopped. Qingshan was standing outside talking to a woman. The same woman from this morning. White shirt, black skirt, thin and fragile looking, standing about 2 meters away from him. They were clearly keeping distance, but something in the air between them felt tangled. Even from far away, I could sense tension, like invisible threads pulling and stretching. Qingshan was angry. His whole body radiated cold energy. The woman, Zhu Hong, said something I couldn't hear, then lowered her head and dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Everything about her screamed delicate heartbreak, like she might shatter at any moment. Qingshan stepped back, watching her with cold eyes, saying nothing. I stood frozen, basket in hand, unsure what to do. Should I walk over? Would it be awkward if they saw me? Should I wait? While I was still debating, Qingshan suddenly looked in my direction. Then he started walking straight toward me. Qingshan was incredible at hiding his emotions. One moment he'd been radiating cold fury at that woman, and the next he was walking toward me looking completely calm. He took the basket from my hand. "Why did you pick so much?" I shook out my sore arms. "I figured in winter when everything's frozen and there's nothing to eat, having dried wild vegetables would come in handy." He didn't argue. "Going home now?" I nodded.
Home.
"I'll sort these out and start on dinner." As we walked past Zhu Hong, I slowed down just enough to sneak a closer look at her. The fragile, sickly air about her, the sadness in her eyes, identical to the original Su Suaning. But their actual features were different, and Zhu Hong was taller. I exhaled with relief. At least they didn't look like twins. That would have been way too much pressure. Qingshan didn't glance at her once. He just walked beside me. But Zhu Hong couldn't let it go. She called out in a trembling voice, "Qingshan." He stopped and turned back, cold as ice. "I told you not to come to the Special Operations Regiment. If you show up again and get arrested as a spy, don't blame anyone." Then he looked at me. "Let's go home." I had 100 questions bouncing around my head, but I knew asking would get me nowhere. So I shut my mouth and chatted about random, easy things instead. One thing I really appreciated about Qingshan, he didn't take his emotions out on other people. He'd just been furious with Zhu Hong, but with me he was perfectly calm. At the compound gate, we ran into Commissar Yan. I could tell they needed to talk, so I said hello and headed home first. After I left, Yan Jianzhong eyed the vegetable basket in Qingshan's hand with some confusion. Why was he digging wild greens when the supply store had proper vegetables? Wild vegetables were what you ate when you had nothing else. Qingshan didn't explain that my cooking made them taste amazing. He just said flatly, "Dandelion greens reduce inflammation. Good for the body." Yan Jianzhong was more interested in something else. Zhu Hong showing up again. Qingshan said he'd told her to leave. The commissar suggested calling her father to come get her. Qingshan agreed and told him to handle it. Then Yan Jianzhong tried to lure him to dinner. "Come eat at my place tonight. My sister-in-law makes great dumplings, chive and egg." Qingshan refused without a second's thought. "No thanks. I'm eating at home." He was thinking about my pork crackling and shepherd's purse dumplings. Chive and egg couldn't compete. Yan Jianzhong was surprised but let it go. Watching Qingshan stride home, he thought to himself that we'd actually looked good together walking side by side earlier. Maybe we really had reconciled. Made sense, we had a baby coming. Why keep fighting? He went home and mentioned it to Feng Chunhua. She wasn't shocked. She'd seen how much I'd changed these past few days. Good for them. With a child on the way, they should stop the nonsense. Feng Chunhua was inside feeding little Huzi. She heard every word through the window. Qingshan had moved back home? That meant we were sleeping under the same roof. Jealousy flooded her like a mouthful of vinegar. Her face twisted. 2 days passed. Qingshan found 2 flat stone slabs from somewhere and laid them on top of the stove. The cooking area instantly looked clean and proper. I loved it. I'd been busy too. I scattered flower seeds along the fence, leveled out the bumpy spots in the yard, and set aside a small patch to plant green onion seeds so we'd always have fresh scallions. The little yard was starting to look like a real home. I smiled at the result. How about chive pockets for lunch with millet porridge? Which Qingshan didn't object. Over these past few days, he'd gotten used to eating my cooking. Even the simplest things tasted good when I made them. Without saying a word, he went straight to chopping firewood. I'd figured him out by now. He wasn't a talker. He'd never say anything sweet or romantic. He was a bit old-fashioned, even stiff. But underneath, he was thoughtful and detail-oriented. His version of being a traditional man meant he believed hard physical work was a man's job and providing for the family was a man's duty. The day he handed me the grain ration booklet and the oil booklet felt like a ceremony, like he was officially giving me control of the household. A real sign of trust. I checked the books. His rank entitled us to 25 jin of white flour per month. As a dependent, I got 20 jin of white flour plus 10 jin of corn flour. 5 jin of cooking oil. For just the two of us, that was more than enough to eat very well. So I planned carefully, frugal but delicious. Every meal hit the mark. My chive pockets were works of art. Half-scalded dough rolled paper thin, so thin you could see the green chives, golden egg and brown glass noodles through the wrapper. Soft and chewy. Which Qingshan was impressed again. These past few days of good food, solid sleep, and a light heart had done wonders for my body. I'd gained a few pounds. My face filled out a little, and my skin glowed, white with a hint of pink underneath. I caught Hu Qingshan's eyes drifting to me more and more often. At one point, he seemed to be thinking that if I never got my memory back, that might not be the worst thing. I'd learned his appetite exactly. Every meal I made was just the right amount, or slightly more, which he'd always finish, never leaving leftovers. While eating, I asked him, "Isn't it time to change your bandage?" "I can do it after lunch." He shook his head. "I went to the clinic yesterday. It's healing well. Next Monday, I can end my medical leave and go back to the regiment full-time." I made a mental note. Once he was back at work, he'd only be home for dinner. I'd have more free time during the day. Maybe I could start making baby clothes. Then a soldier ran up to our fence and called out, "Sister-in-law, there's a man named Chen Jingchen here to see you." The chive pocket fell right out of my hand. I had no idea why Chen Jingchen would show up here. Was he trying to get himself arrested? Didn't he know that interfering with a military marriage was a criminal offense? Hu Qingshan's eyes went sharp the moment he heard that name. He watched me silently, studying my reaction. My panicked face must have made him wonder, did I actually remember Chen Jingchen despite claiming amnesia?
Irrikovered fast.
I couldn't let this idiot destroy the trust I'd been building with Hu Qingshan for days. I put on my most helpless expression and looked at him with wide, worried eyes. "I read those letters. This Chen Jingchen is the one who wrote them. I don't want anything to do with him. I have no idea why he's here. Will you come with me?" He paused, searched my face, and stood up. "Let's go." I told the soldier to go back and let Chen Jingchen know I'd be out soon. Then I looked at Hu Qingshan, who was getting ready to leave. "Let's finish eating first. The food will get cold." I picked up the chive pocket I dropped on the table and started chewing slowly. If I rushed out to see Chen Jingchen, it would look like I cared. Better to take my time. Hu Qingshan sat back down and ate calmly. He told me once that after years in the military, he'd gotten good at reading people, but he still couldn't figure me out. After lunch, I soaked the dishes in the pot, and we strolled out together.
No, Heri.
Right outside the gate, a man in glasses was squatting by the road. He jumped up when he saw us. He was maybe 170 centimeters tall, thin, pale, wearing a mouse suit with a fountain pen clipped in the breast pocket. The pen was supposed to signal he was an educated, cultured man. I really could not understand what the original Su Suaning saw in this fragile little pretty boy. Chen Jingchen's face lit up when he saw me, then froze when he noticed Hu Qingshan behind me. He tried to play it cool. "Suaning, I've been assigned to Forward Village as an educated youth. Your parents asked me to check on you since I was nearby." I blinked. Forward Village was the one right next to the military base, just 4 or 5 li away. When I didn't respond, he rushed to add, "We grew up together. If you ever need anything, you can come find me at the youth camp in Forward Village." I cursed him in my head. This man had a death wish. He was standing right in front of Qingshan, telling me to come visit him. For what exactly? I kept my face cold. "You're here to receive labor education through the countryside program.
Focus on that.
Even if we grew up together, men and women should keep proper boundaries. I'm married. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to visit you. You're a man. Maybe you don't care about reputation. But I'm a woman. I care about mine." He looked shocked. The old Su Suaning would never have spoken to him this way. He figured it was because Qingshan was standing right there. He turned to Qingshan with a nervous smile. "Commander Hua, Suaning and I grew up together. We're like brother and sister. Please don't read anything into it." I cut him off immediately. "We don't share the same parents. How could we possibly be like siblings? If there's nothing else, we're going home to rest." I wanted to punch him. He genuinely didn't understand when someone was telling him to get lost. But we couldn't stand at the gate too long. People would see and talk. Qingshan stared at Chen Jingchen with an ice-cold expression and said just 3 words. "Forward Village." That was all it took. Chen Jingchen went pale. The military had influence over the local farms and villages. If Qingshan spoke to the village chief, Chen Jingchen could be stuck in the countryside forever, never allowed to return to the city. He scrambled to smile. "Right, well, I won't keep you. Suaning, your parents miss you. Visit them when you have time." Then he turned and practically ran away. I snorted under my breath. "My parents miss me?
They just want to suck me dry."
"No, they want to suck you dry." I said it quietly, but loud enough for Qingshan to hear. He seemed surprised. The amnesiac version of me was apparently much clearer-eyed about her family than the original. I smiled at him. "Let's go home and nap. If Chen Jingchen shows up again, can we report him for interfering with a military marriage? Get him arrested?" He paused. "If he does something that crosses the line, yes." I nodded firmly. "Good. Next time he comes, lock him up." Qingshan might have been wondering if I understood the condition. There needed to be an actual offense, like physical contact between me and Chen Jingchen. But he didn't clarify. What I didn't know was what was going on in Chen Jingchen's head as he walked away. He couldn't understand why I'd changed so much in just a few days. He knew the answer, of course. He tried to force himself on me in that motel room. When the original Su Suaning resisted, he'd grabbed her neck in anger. She fell and hit her head. He panicked and ran out to get help, but by the time he came back, Qingshan had already taken her. So those marks on my neck, they weren't from passion. They were from violence. Chen Jingchen figured I was angry at him for running away and grateful to Qingshan for rescuing me. That's why I'd switched sides. But he was convinced he could win me back. After all, the original Su Suaning loved educated, cultured men, not rough soldiers. He had no idea I wasn't the same person anymore. My afternoon nap was restless. I still didn't know if the original Su Suaning and Chen Jingchen had actually done anything during those 3 missing days. The red marks on my neck were gone now, but the uncertainty gnawed at me. She'd run off with a man she loved for 3 days. Things could have happened. If they did. I sighed. I thought about asking Qingshan directly, but that would risk destroying everything I'd built between us. Better to let it go. If Chen Jingchen dared to show up again, I'd deal with him myself. At dinner, Qingshan seemed completely normal, steady mood, no sign that the incident at the gate bothered him. I relaxed. I served him rice and asked casually, "I heard the regiment is showing a movie. Can I go watch?" He looked at me. "You can. It's at the threshing ground on the road to division headquarters. Villagers from nearby can come watch too." That last part hit me. In this era, an outdoor movie screening drew people from every village within 10 li. They'd even climb trees for a view. And Forward Village, Chen Jingchen's village, was only 4 or 5 li away. He'd definitely come. Was Qingshan warning me? I thought about it quickly. This problem needed handling sooner rather than later. The longer I waited, the messier it would get. I nodded without hesitation. I'd love to go see it. I decided to go to the movie screening. If Chun Jingchen showed up, I could deal with him once and for all, squash him like the fly he was so he'd stop buzzing around. I asked Hui Qingshan if he was coming. He shook his head. The movies are for the families and local villagers. We don't attend. Perfect. Without him there, I could handle things my own way. But I didn't realize that the tiny flicker of relief on my face told Hui Qingshan a completely different story. He said nothing. After dinner, he washed the dishes as usual while I went inside to change. I picked out a specific pair of shoes, old-fashioned black leather ones with pointed toes and a small heel. Ugly and uncomfortable, but perfect for kicking someone where it hurts. I grabbed a little wooden stool on my way out, partly because I saw the neighbors carrying theirs and partly because it made a decent weapon. I smiled at Hui Qingshan. I'm heading out. I'll be back after the movie. He nodded and watched me leave. His eyes dropped to my feet. I'd been wearing cloth shoes all week. Now, for a movie, I'd put on leather heels? Something tightened in his chest, a dull ache, a sour feeling he couldn't name. He'd felt less upset when she'd actually run away with another man than he did right now watching her walk out the door in nice shoes. He took a deep breath, finished cleaning up, swept the floor, and grabbed his military jacket to go to the regiment office. On the road, I ran into Feng Chunhua and Feng Shunhua. Chunhua had her 2 older boys. Shunhua was carrying little Huzi on her back, bent forward under his weight, wearing her sister's hand-me-downs, a gray jacket and baggy pants tied with a cloth strip. She looked rough. Feng Chunhua actually talked to me first. Going to the movie too? I smiled. I heard it's a good one. I had no idea what was playing. Turned out it was some war film about a famous guerrilla fighter. The kids loved those. Feng Shunhua hung back half a step, secretly studying me from behind. I could practically feel her irritation growing. In just a few days, I'd gotten prettier. My face had filled out. My skin was glowing with a healthy pink. She was furious. In her mind, having been alive for over 50 years in her past life, she knew exactly what good skin on a pregnant woman meant. She figured Hui Qingshan and I were intimate now. After all, 3 months pregnant was safe enough, and he was a young, healthy man. If we'd reconciled, of course things would happen. That thought made her even angrier. Feng Chunhua kept chatting, complimenting my outdoor kitchen, mentioning that our neighbor said my cooking smelled amazing. She was deliberately painting a picture of my happy domestic life for Shunhua's benefit, hoping her sister would finally give up on Hui Qingshan. At the threshing ground, a white screen was already hung up. 2 projectionists from the base were fiddling with equipment while children crowded around. The middle section was packed with people, with a reserved area for military families. Wives from several different regiments were there, far too many people for me to know. I picked a spot on the edge in a corner. I didn't care about seeing the movie. I wanted to be visible and easy to find. Behind me were piles of grain stacks, and beyond those, a small grove of trees. Now I just had to wait. Chun Jingchen arrived late with a group of educated youth from his village. The movie had already started, and the grounds were dark. He scanned the crowd and quickly spotted me. My green sweater stood out against the sea of gray and brown. He crouched low and squeezed through until he was right next to me, practically pressing against my side. Suaning, you came to watch the movie too. I grimaced and shoved him back. Keep your distance. There are people everywhere. Do you want Hui Qingshan to come after you? He jerked away. Before he could say anything, someone behind us snapped, Are you watching the movie or not? If not, get out. Stop bothering everyone. He lowered his voice to a whisper. Come outside for a minute. I need to talk to you. I pretended to hesitate, just long enough to look reluctant, then stood up, grabbed my stool, and followed him away from the crowd. He was thrilled. He thought my willingness to follow meant I was still in love with him, just angry. We walked to the grain stacks behind the screening area. People were standing on them to watch the movie from above. Chun Jingchen looked around. How about the grove over there? More private. I frowned. The grove? What are you planning? Say what you need to say right here. He reached out and grabbed my arm. Just come with me. I won't do anything. I just want to explain everything properly. I pulled back once, weakly, then let him lead me toward the trees. What I didn't see, what I couldn't have known, was Qingshan standing in the shadows nearby. He'd come after all. His face was like carved stone, eyes dark and fixed on the two of us. His hand at his side was clenched into a fist. He watched Qin Jingchen pull me toward the trees. He hesitated for a moment. Then he followed. Once Qin Jingchen was sure nobody was around, he let go of my arm and started explaining in a rush. Suwaning, are you angry at me? I never did anything wrong to you. And that day, I shouldn't have done that to you. That was all I needed to hear. I didn't want to know any more details. Before he could finish, I drove my pointed leather heels straight between his legs. He didn't even have time to react. While he was doubling over, I swung my wooden stool and cracked it across his back. Didn't I tell you to leave me alone? And you still came, he crumpled, clutching himself, whimpering. I pressed my heel down hard on exactly the spot I'd just kicked. He let out a howl he couldn't hold back, but the movie's explosions and the crowd's cheering drowned it out completely. I stepped on his face next. His glasses crunched under my shoe. I'm being generous tonight. If you ever come looking for me again, or if I hear any rumors about me, I will personally send you to prison. He was blubbering on the ground. I won't come anymore. I was satisfied. He was exactly what I'd suspected, a coward who only knew how to manipulate women with pretty words, then dodge all responsibility when things went wrong. All those letters to the original Su Suwaning had been carefully written, so he could always blame her if anything went bad. She died because she loved this worthless man. What a waste. I kicked him one more time for good measure. If I hear a single bad word about me, I'm coming to your youth camp to beat you again. And you'll never go back to the city. Ever. I grabbed my stool and walked out of the trees fast. It was dark in there. If not for the moonlight, I'd have been scared myself. What I didn't know was that Qingshan had been standing in the shadows the whole time. He'd watched everything. He saw me kick Qin Jingchen in the groin, smash him with a stool, stomp on his face, and crush his glasses. He realized the leather shoes weren't for looking pretty. They were weapons. I'd planned the whole thing from the start. The delicate, fragile Su Suwaning was apparently capable of real violence. I went back to the screening area. My seat was taken, so I found an empty spot, sat down, and just listened. I couldn't see the screen at all, but the actors' voices were powerful, every word crisp and full of conviction. There was something energizing about it. I sat there in a great mood until the movie ended and the crowd scattered. Then I picked up my stool and headed home. On the main road, I spotted a figure standing under the moonlight, looking my way.
Qingshan.
My face lit up. What are you doing here? His mood seemed lighter than usual. Part of the road is dark. I came to walk you home. I was about to say the moon was bright enough to see perfectly, then caught myself and switched to a sweet voice. Oh, that's wonderful. I was just worrying about that dark stretch. It's a little scary. He didn't call out my lie. He took the stool from my hands and gave me his flashlight. Let's go home. I took the flashlight happily, pressed close to his arm, and chattered all the way. The movie was amazing. It got my blood pumping. Oh, are you hungry? I buried some potatoes in the stove ashes before I left. They should be cooked by now. He didn't point out that I obviously hadn't watched a single frame of the movie. He just gave a quiet We ran into Feng Chunhua and Shunhua on the way. Chunhua grinned at Qingshan. You came to pick up Xiao Su. That's so sweet. I put on my best shy, flirty smile. I told him not to come, but he insisted. The moon is so bright, and I had you all for company. What was there to worry about? Qingshan said nothing. Feng Chunhua laughed. It just shows how much he cares about you. I giggled and ducked my head like a blushing newlywed. We'll head home first then. After we were out of earshot, I knew Feng Chunhua was using us as a lesson for her sister. She'd probably said something like, see that? He came to pick her up from a movie. Name one other husband in this compound. Who does that? Give up already. Feng Chunhua was silent, weighed down by the sleeping toddler on her back. But I knew she hadn't given up. Deep in her heart, she was still convinced I was going to die. At home, I rushed to the outdoor stove and dug out the potatoes from the ashes. They were black on the outside but perfect inside, soft, fluffy, and fragrant. I peeled one and handed it to Qingshan, then peeled another for myself. I complained that sweet potatoes would have been even better. He told me there were some in the regiment's root cellar, and I could take a few any time. My eyes practically sparkled. Really? That's not against the rules. He said a few wouldn't be a problem. I noticed he was being affected by my moods more and more. When I was happy, he seemed to relax too. We sat in the little yard, moonlight pouring over everything, eating warm potatoes in the cool night air. Insects chirped. Birds called softly from somewhere. The air smelled clean and fresh. It was perfect. I thought about how a reclining chair would make it even better, and immediately asked him. He thought for a moment and said there might be one in the warehouse. He'd check. I turned to look at him. The moonlight carved his features sharper. Deep-set eyes, strong brows, the kind of face that belonged on a movie poster. Something stirred inside me. I scooted my stool closer until my shoulder pressed against his arm. In the smallest voice I could manage, I said, "Shan, can we just keep living like this?" Just like this. His body went rigid. He didn't move. He didn't answer. After dropping that line about wanting to keep living like this, I didn't overthink it. I washed up, went to bed, and slept like a rock. Beating up Qingjingchen had been incredibly satisfying. My body and mind felt light. Shan, on the other hand, apparently couldn't sleep all night because of what I'd said. I woke up refreshed. He was already gone. Must have left for the regiment early. But the stove was lit, and he'd left a lunchbox warming on top of the kettle with 2 steamed buns and an egg inside. I remembered him mentioning Friday's mint buns at the mess hall. He'd brought breakfast home for me before leaving. I smiled. This man was making it harder and harder to imagine letting him go. In the yard, I found 5 or 6 sweet potatoes sitting by the stove. He'd actually gone to the cellar and brought them. He really did listen to everything I said. The buns were stuffed with potato and a little meat. Not much meat, but the oil had soaked into the potato filling and made them delicious. 2 buns, 1 egg, 1 cup of malted milk powder. Pure happiness. I tidied the house, grabbed Shan's dirty clothes from the bed frame, and washed them in the yard. When he came home and saw his laundry hanging on the line, he'd have to feel something. I never missed a chance to strengthen our bond. After washing clothes and cleaning the yard, it was already noon. He wasn't back yet, so I decided to wait before cooking. Half an hour later, he appeared, but he wasn't alone. Behind him walked a woman in her 50s wearing a rough cotton jacket, hair pulled into a bun, carrying a long tobacco pipe. Her narrow, sharp eyes were already scanning me with open judgment. Shan's mother. Here.
Now.
I stood frozen in the yard. Zhang Guilin, that was her name, looked me up and down with her squinty eyes. You see me and don't even call me Mom? You city people have no manners at all. I kept my expression flat.
Mom.
I'm just surprised. You came so suddenly, she snorted. I need permission to visit my own son? It's spring planting season and I came to check on things. I wasn't about to stand in the yard arguing and giving the neighbors a show. If it was planting season, why wasn't she home working? Shan cut in, voice cold. Enough. Let's go inside. Zhang Guilin marched in and dropped herself onto Shan's bed. Immediately, she started barking orders. I traveled 2 days to get here, and barely ate anything. Hurry up and make me some food. She was talking to me, but I didn't move. Shan frowned. Suaning is pregnant. Tell me what you want to eat. I'll make it. Zhang Guilin nearly exploded. Pregnant? Already? How did this happen so fast? Then her beady eyes started rolling, and I could practically see the scheme forming. Son, I had your fortune read. This year is bad for you to have children. You must abort this baby. It will bring you bad luck. Your older brother's wife is about to give birth. You can adopt that child instead. I actually laughed out loud. What kind of logic is that? We can't keep our own baby, but someone else's child would be fine? How does that work? Their baby has better luck than ours. Zhang Guilin whacked the bed frame with her pipe. Nobody asked you. I'm telling you, this baby cannot stay. I smiled coolly. I think the bad luck story is fake. You just want us to adopt your eldest son's baby because they can't afford to raise it. If they can't feed their own children, maybe they should stop having them. That hit the nerve. Her face, went red with fury. She was about to erupt when Qingshan stopped her cold. This is a military family compound. If you want to cause a scene like last time and have the leadership drag you out for a talk, go ahead. That shut her up instantly. She could bully her son and his wife behind closed doors, but she was terrified of the military authorities. She grumbled and pulled out her tobacco, striking a match to light it. I snatched the pipe right out of her hand. If you want to smoke, go outside. I'm pregnant and can't breathe that in. She tried to light it anyway. I grabbed the whole thing.
Fine.
If you won't listen, I'll go report you to the leadership right now for promoting feudal superstition. She froze. What's superstition? Don't make things up. I tilted my head. Didn't you just say my baby would bring bad luck to Qingshan and that I need to abort it? That's textbook superstition. Would you like to repeat that in front of his commanding officers? The fight drained out of her immediately. Feudal superstition was a serious accusation in this era. She turned to Qingshan, whining. You're just going to stand there while she bullies your own mother, he frowned. Suwaning is right. You did say that. She went quiet for a while, then muttered. Fine, fine. Just get me something to eat. I'm starving. Qingshan started to get up, but I stopped him with a gentle smile. I'll handle it. Mom came all this way. You should stay and keep her company. Zhang Guilin perked up a little. So the daughter-in-law would serve her after all. Good. She'd deal with me properly later. Looking at my tiny frame, she thought I was useless. Couldn't handle wind, let alone hard work. And with hips that narrow, I'd probably give birth to a girl. Worthless. I went outside and threw together a quick egg drop soup with flour lumps. Nothing fancy, just fast. While stirring the pot, I eavesdropped on the conversation inside. Qingshan was telling his mother to leave, his voice patient but firm. 2 years ago, you forced me to cut ties with the family. So why are you here now? Zhang Guilin got agitated. That was just anger talking. You had the army people escort me home. Of course I was upset. And I only wanted you to marry the village chief's daughter for your own good. Qingshan didn't budge. For the severing of ties, you've demanded 1,000 yuan from me. I'm still paying that debt. Zhang Guilin huffed. Don't be so heartless. If we hadn't taken you in, you would have starved to death in the mountains. I nearly dropped my ladle. Taken him in? Starved in the mountains? Qingshan wasn't their biological son? Qingshan went quiet. Zhang Guilin could see his mind was made up, but she wasn't ready to give up. Her eldest son's wife already had 3 daughters. If this next baby was another girl, and the village fortune teller said it would be, they couldn't keep it. The plan was to dump it on Qingshan. She softened her tone. Qingshan, they say the grace of raising a child is greater than the grace of birth. I picked you up before you were a month old. We're family. Family doesn't hold grudges overnight. He said nothing. She was seething inside. He'd been like this since childhood, stubborn, silent, like talking to a wall. Before she could try again, I walked in carrying a bowl of soup. Food's ready. Eat up. She was genuinely starving. 2 days on buses, nothing but a corn bun and water. She saw white flour dumpling soup and got excited, sat down without even washing her hands, and dug in with her chopsticks. But underneath the few flour lumps floating on top was nothing but wild greens. The broth was so thin you could see your reflection in it. She glared at me. This is supposed to fill me up? You couldn't put more flour in? I sighed dramatically, went and fetched the flour sack, and shook it in front of her. Nearly empty. See that? Qingshan's salary goes to paying off debt every month. Even his grain rations get docked. We haven't reached month's end, and we're already out of flour. Didn't you notice the wild vegetables drying in the yard? I'm planning to get some corn flour and make wild vegetable patties for the rest of the month. She didn't believe me. She had no idea what a regiment commander earned or how much grain he received, but surely it couldn't be this bad. I sat down across from her. You know he's a commander. He can't walk around owing people money.
So we tighten our belts.
I'm 3 months pregnant and look at me, skin and bones. You think I'm this thin because I'm eating well? She looked at my tiny frame. I did look malnourished. Maybe things really were this tight. Then her scheming brain kicked in again. You're 3 months along? Your sister-in-law is 6 months. If she is a girl, you can take the baby and tell people you had twins. Wouldn't that be nice? I looked at her calculating face and suddenly had an idea of my own. I smiled warmly. That's a wonderful idea, Mom. Really brilliant. Qingshan's head snapped toward me. He couldn't believe I'd agreed. He frowned. I don't agree to this. I reached over and pressed my hand on his arm, giving him a sweet smile. Qingshan, Ma means well. One child is lonely. If we take your brother's baby too, the kids can keep each other company. I rubbed his arm a few times, a signal to trust me and not argue yet. Zhang Guilin was thrilled. Exactly. Your wife gets it. 2 children to keep each other company. They'll both take care of you when you're old. I nodded eagerly. Mom really does think of everything. Now, please finish eating. Let Qingshan take you to the guest house to rest, she balked. Guest house? There's a small bed right here. I'll sleep on that. I put on a troubled face. It's not that you can't stay. My pregnancy reactions are really bad. Qingshan sleeps with me in the bedroom so he can take care of me when I wake up at night. He barely gets any rest as it is. If his sleep suffers, his work suffers, and then how will we afford 2 children? The mention of 2 children sealed it. She stopped arguing, finished her thin soup, it was white flour at least, so she enjoyed it, and left with Qingshan for the guest house without complaint. The moment they were out of sight, I sprang into action. I hid the malted milk powder, powdered milk, and everything nice inside the bedroom cabinet. The lard jar went in too. I poured most of the flour back into the sack from the bowl I'd dumped it into for show, then hid the extras. The cabinet had a lock. I deliberately left it unlocked but piled cotton clothes on top of the good stuff. I locked the other door of the cabinet, the one with just clothes inside. I dusted off my hands, satisfied. If Zhang Guilin thought she could mooch off us, she was dreaming. When Qingshan came back, he found me sitting inside fiddling with the empty lard jar. He hesitated, then asked, You really want to adopt my brother's child? I set the jar aside and patted the stool next to me.
Sit down.
Have you heard of the strategy called killing with kindness? He frowned. The concept was new to him. I grinned. She treated you badly when you were little, didn't she? He went silent. He'd known since childhood that he wasn't their biological son. Zhang Guilin had always used the I raised you card to control him. I patted his arm. Don't worry. I'll get your revenge for you. With someone like Zhang Guilin, you can't fight head-on. She's the type who'll roll on the ground and throw tantrums, a professional bully. You can't let her cause a scene at the compound or your workplace. Instead, we play along. Let her think she's winning. Let her down a path until she becomes a child trafficker. He blinked. Child trafficker? I lifted my chin, feeling rather proud of myself. You've already cut ties with that family. You share no blood with them. Whatever she does after this has nothing to do with you. She wants to hand off her eldest son's unwanted daughter. Fine. Let her try. I'll make sure it gets classified as trafficking. Give me 3 days. She'll leave on her own. Happy, willing, and never coming back. He stared at me. Zhang Guilin's reputation for being impossible to deal with was legendary. The entire village avoided her like a plague. And I was claiming I could make her leave voluntarily in 3 days? He thought about it, then warned me. She's famous for being difficult. Be careful. I smiled, eyes full of confidence. Relax. I have plenty of tricks. But tonight, you need to sleep in the same bed as me. He froze. He looked at me. I'd said it completely straight-faced, no embarrassment whatsoever. His heartbeat stuttered. The tips of his ears turned red. I didn't even look at Qingshan when I said it. She's definitely going to insist on staying here tonight. So you can't leave. His tension visibly deflated. He gave a quiet I moved on. Let's go to the supply store and buy some meat. I promised dumplings, but we don't actually have to make dumplings. He thought for a second. I'll go get a bicycle from the regiment and ride you there. My eyes lit up. Yes. Walking is too far, and honestly, the real bonus was that everyone in the compound would see me sitting on the back of Qingshan's bicycle. After that, who dare give me the cold shoulder? He seemed puzzled by how excited I was over a bike ride. When he came back with the bicycle, I was already waiting at the gate with my basket. A few military wives stood nearby, also heading to the store, keeping their usual distance from me. Nobody talking to me, nobody acknowledging me. I smiled at Qingshan.
Take your time.
No rush. The wives ignored me but greeted him warmly. Their husbands served under him, after all. I waited patiently until they finished, then said in a bright, clear voice that carried perfectly, "Let's go. We need to buy meat so I can make dumplings for Mom." Every woman within earshot heard that. Let them chew on that. Dutiful daughter-in-law making dumplings for her mother-in-law. Qingshan couldn't figure out my game, but he played along. "Let's go." He straddled the tall bicycle with his long legs, feet flat on the ground, perfectly steady. I put my hand on his waist, hopped up to sit sideways on the back rack, and, while I was at it, pressed my fingers against his stomach through his shirt. Just as I'd imagined. Rock solid.
I'm on.
"Let's go." He felt my little squeeze. Blood rushed to his face. He hadn't expected that at all. He steadied his breathing and pedaled off without a word. I didn't dare push it further. Things were still conservative in this era. I held lightly onto the side of his shirt, but my brain was replaying the feeling of those abs under my fingertips. Without the shirt in the way, it would have been even better. Behind us, the wives watched the whole thing. Li Qin saw me wrap my arm around his waist, and her jaw nearly dropped. The whispers started immediately. "Looks like Commander Hor really is making things work with Su Suaning. That rumor about her running off with a man was probably fake. What man would keep a wife who cheated?" "I think so too. But his mother showed up this morning. Let's see if there's drama." The April weather was perfect. Warm sunshine, gentle breeze, not too hot. We rode through a tree-lined path, young leaves filtering sunlight onto my face in dancing patterns. The wind filled Qingshan's jacket, and the fabric brushed against my cheek. I suddenly understood those romantic movie scenes where the guy pedals and the girl sits behind him through winding streets. I couldn't help laughing out loud. Qingshan had never felt anything like this either. His heart was racing like a 20-year-old boy's. When he heard my laugh, he pedaled faster, the wind picking up around us. I smiled the entire way. At the store, the lunch break meant hardly anyone was shopping. I bought a slab of pure pork fat, not a speck of lean on it, and a cheap pig lung.
No bodiliket buing lung.
It was bland, had no fat, and people thought it was a waste of money. But I had plans. As we were leaving, Feng Chunhua and Shunhua arrived. Feng Shunhua marched up to the counter and confidently ordered 5 jin of thick pork fat. That was a lot. Someone asked Feng Chunhua if they had guests. She quickly said no, they just needed cooking oil. But I noticed the strange excitement in Feng Shunhua's eyes as she stared at that pork fat. This wasn't about rendering cooking oil. The reborn woman was planning something bigger, probably making some kind of sweet cakes to sell secretly in the compound. On the ride home, I casually asked Qingshan, "Are people in the compound allowed to run small businesses?" He frowned. "Absolutely not." "Are you short on money?" I shook my head quickly. "No, just curious." "What happens if someone gets caught?" He explained patiently. "Arrest, and it would damage the husband's military career too. Serious consequences." I wondered if Feng Chunhua would be stupid enough to let her sister go through with it. When we got home, Zhang Guilin was already sitting in our yard smoking her pipe. The door was locked, so she'd been stuck outside waiting. She jumped up when she saw us. "You're back," I smiled warmly. "We bought pork fat. We're out of cooking oil, so I'll render some lard, then make corn-flour vegetable buns with pork cracklings in the filling. They'll be delicious." Her face fell. "I thought you said dumplings?" I sighed. "We really don't have white flour." Can you imagine? Qingshan is a regiment commander going around borrowing flour from people? How embarrassing. And if word got out that we're struggling because he gave all his money to his family when you cut ties, that wouldn't look good for you either. She opened her mouth, couldn't think of a comeback, and closed it again. Wild vegetable buns it was. At least they'd have pork cracklings. I sent Qingshan to return the bicycle. The second he was gone, I hooked my arm through Zhang Guilin's like we were the best of friends. "Mom, it must have been so hard raising Qingshan. I can't imagine what his birth parents were thinking, just abandoning him like that." When I casually asked about Qingshan's birth parents, I watched Zhang Guilin's face closely. Her eyes darted around, and her voice got sharp. Who knows? It was before liberation, wars everywhere, people dumped babies all the time. I was kind-hearted enough to pick him up. She was clearly hiding something. The panic in her eyes told me she probably didn't just find him. She might have stolen him. I filed that away for later. I played the perfect daughter-in-law, made her tea, told her to rest inside while I cooked. She was used to being waited on. Her daughter-in-law back home did everything, so she happily planted herself at the table. Go on then. And put extra oil in. I like things oily. The moment I was outside cooking, she started snooping. I'd expected this. She went through the dish cabinet, empty. Flour sack, empty. Lard jar, spotless clean. Nothing worth stealing in the front room. Then she crept into the bedroom. She eyed the nice bedding on our bed with envy. She tried the unlocked side of the wardrobe, just cotton clothes and sweaters. Then she went for the locked side, the one where she assumed the good stuff was. She was reaching for the lock when she heard my voice in the yard. You're back. Can you grab my apron from inside? She scrambled back to the table and was sitting there sipping tea like nothing happened by the time Qingshan walked in. She even put on a sweet voice. Qingshan, your wife told me to sit and rest. She's cooking. I have to say, she's quite thoughtful. He ignored her and brought the apron outside. I held up my hands, covered in corn flour, and smiled at him. My hands are messy. Can you put the apron on me? The apron I'd sewn was like a backward smock. Straps went over the shoulders from the front, then tied in the back. He had to stand close, reach around me, and tie the strings. He swallowed, stepped forward, helped me into the straps, then moved behind me. From that angle, he was looking down at the back of my pale neck, a few loose strands of hair stuck to the skin. I let out a soft little gasp. Gently. That's too tight. It's pressing on my belly. I could practically hear something ignite inside him. His ears went crimson. He tied the knot with unsteady fingers, then walked straight to the water basin to wash his hands, hands that didn't need washing. I'd seen the red ears. I was delighted. He'd apparently had a girlfriend before, so how was he this easy to fluster? One little tease, and he was burning up. Zhang Guilin had poked her head out the door, heard me asking him to tie my apron, and retreated back inside in disgust. City women were shameless, making a man tie her apron. When the food was ready, I called her out. I served her first, a plate of cornflour vegetable buns stuffed with pork cracklings and pig lung. She bit into one, and her eyes went wide. The outside was rough cornflour, a bit hard, but the filling was amazing. Rich, oily, savory. Best thing she'd eaten all spring. She inhaled 5 of them, barely chewing. What she didn't notice was that I'd made 2 different versions. Hers were pure cornflour, dry, rough, hard to swallow. Mine and Qingshan's were made with pumpkin mixed into the dough, plus a little white flour, which made them softer and slightly sweet. In the dim evening light, they looked the same color. Our filling also had way more pork cracklings, with the lard soaking right into the dough. I ate mine slowly, deliberately furrowing my brow with every bite like they were hard to get down. She watched me struggle and felt even more convinced that we were living a hard life.
She went to check the pot.
4 or 5 buns left. I'll eat these tonight if I get hungry. Don't worry about feeding me. I nodded obediently. Of course, Mom. They're all yours. If I get hungry at night, I'll just make some thin soup. The mention of thin soup, like the watery mess I'd served at lunch, killed any worry she had about me stealing her leftovers. But then she insisted on staying the night instead of the guest house. She couldn't let me eat her buns while she was gone. What kind of mother-in-law sleeps at a guest house when her own son has a home? You two can manage. I agreed immediately. You're absolutely right, Mom. Oh, how long are you planning to stay? If it's a while, I was thinking of buying some cotton to make baby clothes. My sewing isn't great. I was hoping you could teach me. The word, cotton, made her eyes light up. Her and her husband's cotton padded jackets hadn't been replaced in years. If I was buying cotton, she pretended to think it over. Well, it's spring planting season, and I should go home soon. But since you need my help, I suppose I could stay a few extra days. I beamed. That would be wonderful. I've been so worried about not knowing how to sew baby things. Hu Qingshan watched me grinning at his mother with what looked like genuine warmth. A faint smile crossed his eyes. He could tell I was cooking up another scheme. Zhang Guilin watched me make up her bed, with barely hidden glee. I swapped out Hu Qingshan's blanket for a different one and fluffed the pillow. She gave some half-hearted, "Oh, you don't have to," protests, but she was loving every second of being waited on. I smiled sweetly. "Mom, go to sleep early. The electricity shuts off after 10. The compound runs on the regiment's generator. When lights out sounds, everything goes dark. If you need the toilet at night, be careful. There's no light out there either." She waved me off. "We don't even have electricity back home. I've survived 50-some years without it." I added one more thing. "Also, wild animals have been coming down from the mountains lately looking for food. If you hear any strange noises, don't wander around. Come right back inside." She shooed me away impatiently. "I'm a grown woman, I know these things. Go to bed." I turned around, barely able to contain my grin, and called to Hu Qingshan, who was fiddling with the stove. "Let's wash up and sleep. We need to go buy cotton first thing tomorrow." Zhang Guilin's ears practically perked up like a rabbit's.
Cotton.
Tomorrow. Her old padded jackets were falling apart. She lay down on the small bed without even changing her clothes, already dreaming of new cotton. I washed up quickly, changed into my pajamas, and climbed into bed. Then it finally hit me. I was actually sharing a bed with Hu Qingshan tonight. This bed was only about 1.5 meters wide. One tiny movement, and I'd be touching him. For the first time in this new life, I felt genuinely shy. And maybe a little excited to see how he'd handle it. Half an hour later, he came in. His hair was damp. He must have gone to the regiment to shower. He sat on the edge of the bed, radiating cold night air. I sat up immediately. "Why didn't you dry your hair? Sleeping with wet hair is terrible." I threw off the blanket, hopped out, and grabbed the towel hanging by the door. When I reached up for it, my sleeveless top rode up, showing a sliver of bare waist. I turned around and saw Hu Qingshan staring hard at the headboard, neck and ears blazing red. I looked down at myself, a simple sleeveless floral top and matching shorts that ended just above the knee. Perfectly normal sleepwear. This man was even more conservative than I'd thought. I was thrilled. I walked over with the towel, stopping less than half a meter away. "Let me dry your hair." He practically snatched the towel from my hands, shot up from the bed, and retreated to the corner to dry his own hair. His voice came out rough. "I'll do it myself. Go to sleep." I burst out laughing and scrambled back under the covers. The room was chilly without the stove going. He kept his back to me, rubbing his hair until the lights-out bugle sounded, and everything went dark. I felt him relax slightly. He waited another moment, then carefully got into bed, as far to the edge as physically possible, and turned his back to me. I rolled over to face his back and poked his shoulder with my finger. "Won't sleeping on that side press on your wound?" "It's fine. It's mostly healed." I poked him again. "Turn over. I need to tell you something." His shoulders went stiff, but he obeyed. He knew if he didn't move, I'd just keep poking. I propped myself up on one elbow, chin in my hand, staring at him in the darkness. I could barely make out his silhouette, but I could feel how uncomfortable he was. "What do you want to say?" His voice was strained. I scooted closer. "Your mom is right outside." I need to whisper. Then I leaned in until my lips were nearly touching his ear and told him my plan for dealing with Zhang Guilin. My breath hit his neck and cheek. My shoulder pressed against his. I could feel his whole body go tense. When I finished, I stayed close, squinting in the dark trying to see his expression. Too dark. Disappointing. He hadn't responded, so I asked in my softest voice, "So? Will it work?" His throat sounded dry. After a pause, "Yes. I'll arrange it." I flopped back down, satisfied. "I can't wait." From the outer room came the sound of shuffling, then a bump against a stool. Zhang Guilin was up eating the leftover corn buns she'd claimed for herself. I grinned in the dark and whispered, "Were the buns at lunch good?" Even in the blackness, I could hear the smile in his voice. Very good." I giggled. "I'll always make you the good stuff." Just a throwaway line from me, but I felt something shift in the silence next to me. like the words had landed somewhere deeper than I'd intended. I mumbled a few more things, felt my eyelids getting heavy, said, "I'm sleeping now," rolled over, pulled the blanket up, and was out cold. Qingshan couldn't sleep. He wanted to toss and turn but was afraid of waking me. He lay there in the dark, wide awake, while I slept peacefully beside him. I woke up to Zhang Guilin yelling from the front room. Qingshan was already gone, his blanket folded into a perfect military square at the foot of the bed. I smiled at it. That crisp, rigid blanket was just like him. Straight edges, no wrinkles, everything in its proper place. "Suaning, are you up?" "I'm hungry." I yawned and dragged myself out to change. When I finally emerged, Zhang Guilin was waiting impatiently. But then she asked something unexpected. "That girl, Feng Shunhua, does she have a problem with you?"